There is a Grey Eye by St. Columcille, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by AMB Suite 13. There is a grey eye that tears are thronging, fixed with longing on Era's shore. It shall never see o'er the waste of waters the sons and daughters of Era more. Its glance goes forth o'er the brine wave broken, away from the firm set oaken seat. Many the tears from that grey eye streaming, the faint far gleaming of Era to meet. For indeed my soul is set upon Erin, and all joys therein from Leny to Leny, on each fair prospect of proud Altonia, mild Mammonia, and Meath the green. End of There is a Grey Eye by St. Columcille. This recording is in the public domain.
Geoffrey Keating to His Letter by Geoffrey Keating, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. For the sake of the dear little isle where I send you, for those who will welcome and speed and befriend you, for the green hills of Erin that still hold my heart there, though stained with the blood of the patriot and martyr, my blessing attend you, my blessing attend you. Adieu to her nobles, may honour never fail them. To her clergy adieu, may no false ones assail them. Adieu to her people, adieu to her sages, her historians, and all that illumine their pages. In distance I hail them, more fondly I hail them. Adieu to her plains, all enamelled with flowers. 1,000 adieus to her hills and her bowers. Adieu to the friendships and hearts long devoted. Adieu to the lakes on whose bosom I floated. In youth's happy hours, in youth's happy hours. Adieu to her fish rivers, murmuring through rushes. Adieu to her meadows, her fields, wells and bushes. Adieu to her lawns, her moors and her harbours. Adieu from my heart to her forests and arbours, all vocal with thrushes, all vocal with thrushes. Adieu to her harvests, for ever increasing, and her hills of assemblies, all wisdom possessing. And her people, oh, where is there braver or better? Then go to the island of saints, my dear letter, and bring her my blessing, and bring her my blessing. End of Geoffrey Keating to His Letter by Geoffrey Keating. This is a recording in the public domain, recording by Lorcan Burke.
Dark Rosaline by James Clarence Mangan, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Oh, my dark Rosaline, do not sigh, do not weep. The priests are on the ocean green, they march along the deep. There's wine from the royal Pope upon the ocean green, and Spanish ale shall give you hope. My dark Rosaline, my own Rosaline, shall glad your heart, shall give you hope, shall give you health and help and hope, my dark Rosaline. Over hills and through dales have I roamed for your sake. All yesterday I sailed with sails on river and on lake. The Erne, at its highest flood, I dashed across unseen, for there was lightning in my blood, my dark Rosaline, my own Rosaline. Oh, there was lightning in my blood, red lightning lightened through my blood, my dark Rosaline. All day long, in unrest, to and fro do I move. The very soul within my breast is wasted for you, love. The heart in my bosom faints to think of you, my queen, my life of life, my saint of saints, my dark Rosaline, my own Rosaline, to hear your sweet and sad complaints, my life, my love, my saint of saints, my dark Rosaline. Woe and pain, pain and woe are my lot, night and noon, to see your bright face clouded so, like to the mournful moon. But yet will I rear your throne again in golden sheen. 'Tis you shall reign alone, my dark Rosaline, my own Rosaline. 'Tis you shall have the golden throne, 'tis you shall reign alone, my dark Rosaline. Over dews, over sands, will I fly for your wheel, your holy, delicate white hands shall girdle me with steel. At home in your emerald bowers, from morning's dawn till e'en, you'll pray for me, my flower of flowers, my dark Rosaline, my fond Rosaline. You'll think of me through daylight's hours, my virgin flower, my flower of flowers, my dark Rosaline. I could scale the blue air, I could plough the high hills, oh, I could kneel all night in prayer to heal your many ills. And one beamy smile from you would float like light between my toils and me, my own, my true, my dark Rosaline, my fond Rosaline, would give me life and soul anew, a second life, a soul anew, my dark Rosaline. Oh, the urn shall run red with redundance of blood, the earth shall rock beneath our tread, and flames wrap hill and wood, and gun peal and slogan cry wake many a glen serene, ere you shall fade, ere you shall die, my dark Rosaline, my own Rosaline. The judgment hour must first be nigh, ere you can fade, ere you can die, my dark Rosaline. End of Dark Rosaline by James Clarence Mangan. This recording is in the public domain.
Dirge of Rory O'Moore by Aubrey de Vere, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Up the sea-saddened valley at evening's decline, a heifer walks lowing, the silk of the kine. From the deep to the mountains she roams, and again from the mountain's green urn to the purple-rimmed main. What seek'st thou, sad mother? Thine own is not thine. He dropped from the headland, he sank in the brine. 'Twas a dream, but in dreams at thy foot did he follow, through the meadow sweet on by the marish and mallow. Was he thine? Have they slain him? Thou seek'st him, not knowing. Thyself too art theirs, thy sweet breath and sad lowing. Thy gold horn is theirs, thy dark eye and thy silk, and that which torments thee, thy milk is their milk. 'Twas no dream, motherland, 'tis no dream, Inish fail. Hope dreams, but grief dreams not, the grief of the Gael. From Leeks and a Kieran to Donegal's shore, rolls the dirge of thy last and thy bravest, O Moor. End of Dirge of Rory O'Moore by Aubrey de Vere. This recording is in the public domain, recording by Lorcan Burke. After Aughrim by Arthur Gerald Gagan from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Do you remember long ago, Kathleen, when your lover whispered low, "Shall I stay or shall I go, Kathleen?" And you answered proudly, "Go, and join King James and strike a blow for the green." Mavrone, your hair is white as snow, Kathleen, your heart is sad and full of woe. Do you repent you bade him go, Kathleen? But quick you answered proudly, "No, for better die with Sarsfield so, than live a slave without a blow for the green." End of After Aughrim by Arthur Gerald Gagan. This is a recording in the public domain, recording by Lorcan Burke. A Bard's Lament Over His Children by Porrick Gregory from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. O river of great kings and sons of kings, O river of swift bark and silver fish, O Boyne once famed for battle frays and sports, and heroes of the regal race of Conn, art thou grey grown for all thy comeliness, O aged woman of the grey-green pools, O sorrowed Boyne, O stream of many tears? Where gone the golden glory of thy sires, the fame of mighty Art and wise Meltane? Art of the arrows, Meltane of the spears, sons of the hero house of the O'Neill. To thee of yore belonged red victory, when fires of Fenian wrath were kindled well, and blood-smeared bridles clanked on foaming steeds, as leagued legions swept to venging war. O river of great kings and sons of kings, O river of swift bark and silver fish, I lay my blessings on thee with my tears, for thou wilt watch forever o'er the grave, wherein my treasures sleep close by thy side. O aged woman of the grey-green pools, O sorrowed Boyne, O stream of many tears. There lie my sons in all their lusty strength, there lies my girl in all her budding charms, Rory and Brian with their sister Rose. These have I given sore against my will, O deep, dark grave to thee. They were myself, my life, my love, my heart, my blood, my bone. The blessing of all men were on thee three, the blessing of the folk that loved them well, from holy Kells to ancient Drogheda. May peace be on the grave wherein they lie, beside the waters, royal stream of kings, here in the spreading lands of the O'Neill. O river of great kings and sons of kings, O river of swift bark and silver fish, O aged woman of the grey-green pools, I lay my blessings on thee with my tears. End of A Bard's Lament Over His Children by Porrick Gregory. This recording is in the public domain, recording by Lorcan Burke.
The Little Black Rose by Aubrey de Vere from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. The little black rose shall be red at last. What made it black but the March wind dry, and the tear of the widow that fell on it fast? It shall redden the hills when June is nigh. The silk of the kine shall rest at last. What drove her forth but the dragon-fly? In the golden vale she shall feed full fast, with her mild gold horn and her slow dark eye. The wounded wood-dove lies dead at last. The pine long bleeding, it shall not die. Their song is secret, mine ear it passed, in a wind o'er the plains of Athen Rye. End of The Little Black Rose by Aubrey de Vere. This recording is in the public domain. The Wind That Shakes the Barley by Robert Dwyer Joyce. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. I sat within the valley green, I sat me with my true love. My sad heart strove the two between, the old love and the new love. The old for her, the new that made me think on Ireland dearly. While soft the wind blew down the glade and shook the golden barley. 'Twas hard the woeful words to frame, to break the ties that bound us. 'Twas harder still to bear the shame of foreign chains around us. And so I said, the mountain glen I'll seek at morning early, and join the brave united men, while soft winds shook the barley. While sad I kissed away her tears, my fond arms round her flinging, the foeman's shot burst on our ears from out the wildwood ringing. The bullet pierced my true love's side in life's young spring so early, and on my breast in blood she died when soft winds shook the barley. But blood for blood without remorse I've ta'en at Ullard Hollow. I've placed my true love's clay-cold corse where I full soon shall follow, and round her grave I wander drear, noon, night, and morning early, with breaking heart whene'er I hear the wind that shakes the barley. End of The Wind That Shakes the Barley by Robert Dwyer Joyce. This recording is in the public domain.
The Irishman by James Orr. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Chad Horner from Liverpool. The savage loves his native shore, though rude the soil and chill the air. Then well may Erin's sons adore their isle, which nature formed so fair. What flood reflects a shore so sweet as Shannon great, or pastoral Ban? Or who a friend or foe can meet so generous as an Irishman? His hand is rash, his heart is warm, but honesty is still his guide. None more repents a deed of harm, and none forgives with nobler pride. He may be duped, but won't be dared, more fit to practice than to plan. He dearly earns his poor reward, and spends it like an Irishman. If strange or poor, for you he'll pay, and guide to where you safe may be. If you're his guest, while e'er you stay, his cottage holds a jubilee. His inmost soul will he unlock, and if he may your secrets scan, your confidence he scorns to mock. For faithful is an Irishman, by honour bound in woe or weal. Whate'er she bids he dares to do. Try him with bribes, they won't prevail. Prove him in fire, you'll find him true. He seeks not safety, let his post be where it ought in danger's van. And if the field of fame be lost, it won't be by an Irishman. James Orr. End of The Irishman by James Orr. This recording is in the public domain.
A Spinning Song by John Francis O'Donnell, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Zaina. My love to fight the Saxon goes, and bravely shines his sword of steel. A heron's feather decks his brows, and a spur on either heel. His steed is blacker than a sloe, and fleeter than the falling star. Amid the surging ranks he'll go and shout for joy of war. Twinkle, twinkle, pretty spindle, and let the white wool drift and dwindle. Oh, we weave a damask doublet for my love's coat of steel. Hark, the timid turning treadle, crooning soft old-fashioned ditties to the low, slow murmur of the brown, round wheel. My love is pledged to Ireland's fight, my love would die for Ireland's weal. To win her back her ancient right, and make her foeman reel. Oh, I'll clasp him to my breast, when homeward from the war he comes. The fire shall light the mountain's crest, the valley peal with drums. Twinkle, twinkle, pretty spindle, let the white wool drift and dwindle. Oh, we weave a damask doublet for my love's coat of steel. Hark, the timid turning treadle, crooning soft old-fashioned ditties, to the low, slow murmur of the brown, round wheel. End of A Spinning Song by John Francis O'Donnell. This recording is in the public domain.
The Bells of Shandon by Francis Sylvester Mahoney, Father Prout, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. With deep affection and recollection, I often think of the Shandon bells, whose sounds so wild would, in days of childhood, fling round my cradle their magic spells. On this I ponder, where'er I wander, and thus grow fonder, sweet cork, of thee. Why, thy bells of Shandon, that sound of grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee. I have heard bells chiming, full many a clime tolling sublime, in cathedral, shrine, while at a glib rate brass tongues would vibrate, but all their music spoke naught to thine, for memory, dwelling on each proud swelling of the belfry, knelling its bold notes free, made the bells of Shandon sound far more grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee. I have heard bells tolling old Adrian's mole in, their thunder rolling from the Vatican, with cymbals glorious swinging uproarious in the gorgeous turrets of Notre Dame. But thy sounds were sweeter than the dome of Peter flings o'er the Tiber, pealing solemnly. Oh, the bells of Shandon sound far more grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee. There's a bell in Moscow, while on tower and kiosk, oh, in St. Sophia the Turkman gets, and loud in the air calls men to prayer from the tapering summit of tall minarets. Such empty phantom, I freely grant 'em, but there's an anthem more dear to me. 'Tis the bells of Shandon that sound so grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee. End of The Bells of Shandon by Francis Sylvester Mahoney, Father Prout. This recording is in the public domain.
The Memory of the Dead by John Kells Ingram, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Who fears to speak of '98? Who blushes at the name? When cowards mock the patriot's fate, who hangs his head for shame? He's all a knave, or half a slave, who slights his country thus. But a true man, like you, man, will fill your glass with us. We drink the memory of the brave, the faithful, and the few. Some lie far off beyond the wave, some sleep in Ireland too. All are gone, but still lives on the fame of those who died. All true men, like you men, remember them with pride. Some on the shores of distant lands their weary hearts have laid, and by the strangers' heedless hands their lonely graves were made. But though their clay be far away beyond the Atlantic foam, in true men, like you men, their spirits still at home. The dust of some is Irish earth, among their own they rest, and the same land that gave them birth has caught them to her breast. And we will pray that from their clay full many a race may start, of true men, like you men, to act as brave a part. They rose in dark and evil days to right their native land. They kindled there a living blaze that nothing shall withstand. Alas, that might can vanquish right, they fell and passed away. But true men, like you men, are plenty here today. Then here's their memory, may it be for us a guiding light, to cheer our strive for liberty and teach us to unite. Through good and ill be Ireland still, though sad as there's your fate, and true men be you men, like those of '98. End of The Memory of the Dead by John Kels Ingram. This recording is in the public domain.
Song for July the 12th, 1843, by John de Jean Fraser. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. Come, pledge again thy heart and hand, one grasp that ne'er shall sever. Our watchword be our native land, our motto, love for ever. And let the orange lily be thy badge, my patriot brother, the everlasting green for me, and we for one another. Behold how green the gallant stem, on which the flower is blowing, how in one heavenly breeze and beam, both flower and stem are glowing. The same good soil, sustaining both, makes both united flourish, but cannot give the orange growth, and cease the green to nourish. Yea, more, the hand that plucks the flower will vainly strive to cherish. The stem blooms on, but in that hour the flower begins to perish. Regard them, then, of equal worth, while lasts their genial weather. The time's at hand when into earth the two shall sink together. Even thus be, in our country's cause, our party feelings blended, till lasting peace from equal laws on both shall have descended. Till then the orange lily be thy badge, my patriot brother, the everlasting green for me, and we for one another. End of the Song for July the 12th, 1843, by John de Jean Fraser. This recording is in the public domain.
Memories by Thomas D'Arcy McGee, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. I left two loves on a distant strand, one fair and young and white of hand, one fair and old and sadly grand, my wedded wife and my native land. One tarrieth sad and seriously beneath the roof that mine should be, one sitteth Sibyl-like by the sea, chanting a grave song mournfully. A little life I have not seen lies by the heart that mine hath been. A cypress wreath darkles now, I ween, over the brow of my love in green. My mother and wife shall pass away, her hands be dust, her lips be clay, but my other love on earth shall stay and live in the life of a better day. Ere we were born my first love was, my sires were heirs to her holy cause, and she yet shall sit in the world's applause, a mother of men and blessed laws. I hope and strive the while I sigh, for I know my first love cannot die. From the chain of woes that loom so high, her reign shall reach to eternity. End of Memories by Thomas D'Arcy McGee. This recording is in the public domain.
To God in Ireland True by Ellen O'Leary, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. I sit beside my darling's grave, who in the prison died, and though my ears fall thick and fast, I think of him with pride. Aye, softly fall my tears like dew, for one to God in Ireland true. I love my God over all, he said, and then I love my land, and next I love my lily sweet, who pledged me her white hand. To each, to all I'm ever true, to God, to Ireland, and to you. No tender nurse his hard bed smoothed, or softly raised his head. He fell asleep and woke in heaven, ere I knew he was dead. Yet why should I my darling rue? He was to God and Ireland true. Oh, 'tis a glorious memory, I'm prouder than a queen, to sit beside my hero's grave, and think on what he has been. And oh, my darling, I am true, to God, to Ireland, and to you. End of To God and Ireland True by Ellen O'Leary. This recording is in the public domain.
I Give My Heart to Thee by Standish James O'Grady, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Daniel N. Hickson. I give my heart to thee, O motherland. I, if none else, recall the sacred womb. I, if none else, behold the loving eyes bent ever on thy myriad progeny, who care not nor regard thee as they go. O tender, sorrowing, weeping, hoping land, I give my heart to thee, O motherland. I give my heart to thee, O fatherland, fast anchored on thy own eternal soul, rising with cloudy mountains to the skies. O proud, strong land, unstooping, stern of rule, me rule as ever, let me feel thy might. Let me go forth with thee now and for aye. I give my heart to thee, O fatherland. I give my heart to thee, heroic land, to thee, or in thy morning when the sun flashed on thy giant limbs, thy lurid noon, or in thy depth of night, fierce thoughted one, wrestling with phantoms of thy own wild soul, or stone still, silent, waiting for the dawn. I give my heart to thee, heroic land. I give my heart to thee, ideal land, far soaring sister of the starry throng. O fleet of wing, what journeyings are thine? What goal, what god attracts thee? What unseen glory reflected makes thy face aflame? Leave me not. Where thou goest, let me go. I give my heart to thee, ideal land. End of I Give My Heart to Thee, read for LibriVox.org by Daniel N. Hickson. This poem is in the public domain.
Song from the Backwoods by T.D. Sullivan, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Deep in the Canadian woods we've met, from one bright island flown. Great is the land we tread, but yet our hearts are with our own. And ere we leave this shanty small, while fades the autumn day, we'll toast old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Island boys, hooray. We've heard her faults 100 times, the new ones and the old, in songs and sermons, rants and rhymes, enlarged them 50-fold. But take them all, the great and small, and this we've got to say. Here's dear old Ireland, good old Ireland, Ireland boys, hooray. We know that brave and good men tried to snap her rusty chain, that patriots suffered, martyrs died, and all, 'tis said, in vain. But no, boys, no, a glance will show how far they've won their way. Here's dear old Ireland, loved old Ireland, Ireland boys, hooray. We've seen the wedding and the wake, the patron and the fair, the stuff they take, the fun they make, and the heads they break down there. With a loud hurroo and a pialoo, with a thunderclap clear the way. Here's gay old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys, hooray. And well we know, in the cool grey eyes, when the hard day's work is o'er, how soft and sweet are the words that greet the friends who meet once more. With Mary Macree and my Pat, 'tis he, and my own heart, night and day. Ah, fond old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys, hooray. And happy and bright are the groups that pass from their peaceful homes for miles, o'er fields and roads and hills to mass, when Sunday morning smiles. And deep the zeal their true hearts feel, when low they kneel and pray. Oh, dear old Ireland, blessed old Ireland, Ireland boys, hooray. But deep in Canadian woods we've met, and we may never see again, the dear old isle where our hearts are set, and our first fond hopes remain. But come, fill up another cup, and with every sup let's say, here's love to old Ireland, good old Ireland, Ireland boys, hooray. End of Song from the Backwoods by T.D. Sullivan. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Pipe Erin.
After Death by Fanny Parnell, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Shall mine eyes behold thy glory, O my country? Shall mine eyes behold thy glory? Or shall the darkness close around them, ere the sun-blaze break at last upon thy story? When the nations ope for thee their queenly circle, as sweet new sister hail thee, shall these lips be sealed in callous death and silence, that have known but to bewail thee? Shall the ear be deaf, that only love thy praises, when all men their tribute bring thee? Shall the mouth be clay that sang thee in thy squalor, when all poets' mouths shall sing thee? Ah, the harpings and salvos and the shoutings of thy exiled sons returning, I should hear, though dead and mouldered, and the grave damps should not chill my bosom's burning. Ah, the tramp of feet victorious! I should hear them mid the shamrocks and the mosses, and my heart should toss within the shroud and quiver as a captive dreamer tosses. I should turn and rend the cerecloths round me, giant sinews I should borrow, crying, O my brothers, I have also loved her in her loneliness and sorrow. Let me join with you the jubilant procession, let me chant with you her story. Then contented I shall go back to the shamrocks, now mine eyes have seen her glory. End of After Death by Fanny Parnell. This recording is in the public domain.
An Irish Face by A. E. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. Not her own sorrow only that hath place upon yon gentle face, too slight have been her childhood's years to gain the imprint of such pain. It hid behind her laughing hours, and wrought each curve in saddest thought on brow, and lips, and eyes, With subtle art it made the little heart through its young joyous beatings to prepare a quiet shelter there, where the immortal sorrows might find a home. And many there have come, bowed in a mournful mist of golden hair. Deirdre hath entered there, and shrouded in a fall of pitying dew, weeping the friend he slew. The hound of Allah lies with those who shed tears of the wild geese fled, and all the lovers on whom fate hath warred, cutting the silver cord, enter, and softly breath by breath they mould the young heart to the old protest, the old pity, whose power are gathering to the hour when their knit silence shall be mightier far than leagued empires are. And dreaming of the sorrow on his face, we grow of lordlier race, could shake the rooted rampart of the hills, to shield her from all ills, and through a deep adoring pity won, grow what we dream upon. End of An Irish Face by A. E. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dark Man by Nora Hopper, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. Rose of the world, she came to my bed, and changed the dreams of my heart and head. For joy of mine she left grief of hers, and garlanded me with the prickly furs. Rose of the world, they go out and in, and watch me dream in my mother's spin, and they pity the tears in my sleeping face, while my soul's away in a fairy place. Rose of the world, they have words galore, for wide's the swing of my mother's door, and soft they speak of my darkened brain, but what do they know of my heart's dear pain? Rose of the world, the grief you give is worth all days that a man may live, is worth all prayers that the colleens say on the night that darkens the wedding day. Rose of the world, what man would wed when he might remember your face instead, might go to his grave with the blessed pain of hungering after your face again? Rose of the world, they may talk their fill, but dreams are good, and my life stands still, while the neighbors talk by their fires astir, but my fiddle knows, and I talk to her. End of The Dark Man by Nora Hopper. This recording is in the public domain.
Irish Memories by George A. Green, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. Oh, green and fresh your English, and with daisies sprinkled over, but greener far were the fields I trod, and the honeyed Irish clover. Oh, while your skylark cleaves the blue to bid the sun good morrow, he has not the bonny song I knew high over an Irish furrow. And often, I'm longing still this gay and golden weather from my father's face by an Irish hill, and he and I together. End of Irish Memories by George A. Green. This recording is in the public domain. Celtic Speech by Lionel Johnson, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. Never forgetful silence fall on thee, nor younger voices overtake thee, nor echoes from thine ancient hills forsake thee, Old music heard by Mona of the sea, and where with moving melodies there break thee, pastoral Conway, venerable Dee. Like music lives, nor may that music die. Still in the far, fair Gaelic places, the speech so wistful with its kindly graces, holy Creek Patrick knows, and holy High. The speech that wakes the soul in withered faces, and wakes remembrance of great things gone by, like music by the desolate land's end. Mournful forgetfulness hath broken, no more words kindred to the winds are spoken, where upon iron cliffs whole seas expend that strength, whereof the unalterable token remains wild music, even to the world's end. End of Celtic Speech by Lionel Johnson. This recording is in the public domain.
A Song of Freedom by Alice Milligan from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. In Cavern of Little Lakes, as I was walking with the wind, and no one beside me there came a song into my mind. It came as if the whispered voice of one, but none of humankind, who walked with me in cavern then, and he invincible as wind, on Uris of Irish Oven, as I went up the mountainside. The brook that came leaping down cried to me, for joy it cried, and when from off the summit far I looked o'er land and water wide, I was more joyous than the brook that met me on the mountain side. To Ara of Cornet Isles, as I went sailing over the sea, the wind's word, the brook's word, the wave's word was plain to me. As we are, though she is not, as we are, shall Benba be. There is no king can rule the wind, there is no fetter for the sea. End of A Song of Freedom by Alice Milligan. This recording is in the public domain.
Island by Stephen Lucius Gwyn. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. Ireland, oh Ireland, centre of my longings, country of my fathers, home of my heart, overseas you'll call me. Why an exile from me? Wherefore sea severed, long leagues apart? As the shining salmon, homeless in the sea depths, hear the river call him, scents out the land, leaps and rejoices in the meeting of the waters, breasts weir and torrent, nests in the sand, lives there and loves, yet with years returning, resting in the river, pines for the sea, sweeps back again to the ripple of the tide-way, roamer of the waters, vagabond and free. Wanderer, am I like the salmon of thy rivers? London is my ocean, murmurous and deep, tossing and vast, yet through the roar of London comes to me thy summons, calls me in sleep. Pearly are the skies in the country of my fathers, purple are thy mountains, home of my heart, mother of my yearning, love of all my longings. Keep me in remembrance, long leagues apart. End of Island by Stephen Lucius Gwyn. This recording is in the public domain. An Appeal by Emily Lawless. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. Days of unstinted splendour, days of unceasing rain, days all beringed with pleasure, days all bestreaked with pain. Hark, for I hear them calling from over the rocks and the sand. Hark, for I hear them calling far off in that wild west land. Up from the hearts of the mountains, cold, ascetic, severe, up from the breasts of the streams, brown, bejewelled, and clear, up from thy oozy depths, loud-tongued friend of the blast, they rise, they return, they throng, ghosts of the days that are past. Past and dim, not dead, they live as our lost ones live, in our eyes, in our hearts, in our souls, with all that they had to give. And the sound of Atlantic pervades them, and seems in our ears from afar, like the sound of thy voice, O Eternal, whose runnels and ripples we are. Thine were they ere we knew them, giver of joy and pain. Thine those days, not ours, to thee they returned again. For what are the drops and the streams to the infinite sweep of the sea? And what are our days or our years, Master of aeons, to thee? And the days yet unborn shall be good, and the children shall walk in thy light. Say, shall it not be so, who bringest the day from the night? Look, for I see them coming, far over the rocks and the sand. Look, for I see them coming, away to that wild west land, our own west land, which knows us, whose sons and daughters are we, waste untoward to others, dear as a mother to me, whose days shall yet be good, whose daughters and sons shall rejoice, standing erect and proud in the old green home of their choice. So let it be, O Lord, let thy people be glad in thy light, though we plead, pass and perish, wind blown, waifs of a night. End of an appeal by Emily Lawless. This recording is in the public domain. Irish Melodies by John Todd Hunter. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. Inscribed to the memory of Catherine Hayes. A voice beside the dim enchanted river, out of the twilight, where the brooding trees hear Shannon's druid waters chant for ever tales of dead kings and bards and shanachies. A girl's young voice out of the twilight, singing old songs beside the legendary stream. A girl's clear voice o'er the wan waters ringing, beats with its wild wings at the gates of dream. The flagon leaves, whereon shy dewdrops glisten, are swaying, swaying gently to the sound. The meadows sweet and spearmint, as they listen, breathe wistfully their wizard balm around. And there, alone with her lone heart and heaven, thrush-like she sings, and lets her voice go free. Her soul of all its hidden longing, shriven soars on wild wings, with a wild melody, sweet in its plaintive Irish modulations. Her fresh young voice, tuned to old sorrow, seems the passionate cry of countless generations. Keens in her breast, as there she sings and dreams. No more sad voice, for now the dawn is breaking. through the long night, through islands, night of tears. New songs wake in the morn of her awaking from the enchantment of 900 years. End of Irish Melodies by John Todd Hunter. This recording is in the public domain. Lament for Thomas Davis by Sir Samuel Fergusson. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. I walked through Ballinderry in the springtime, when the bud was on the tree, and I said, in every fresh ploughed field beholding the sowers striding free, scattering broadside forth the corn in golden plenty on the quick seed-clasping soil, even such this day among the fresh-stirred hearts of Erin, Thomas Davis, is thy toil. I sat by Ballyshannon in the summer and saw the salmon leap, and I said, as I beheld the gallant creatures spring glittering from the deep, through the spray and through the prone heaps striving onward to the calm clear streams above, so seekest thou thy native founts of freedom, Thomas Davis, in thy brightness of strength and love. I stood in Derry born in the autumn, and I heard the eagle call, when a clangorous cry of wrath and lamentation that filled the wide mountain's hall, o'er the bare deserted place of his plundered eyrie. And I said, as he screamed and soared, so callest thou thy wrathful sowing, Thomas Davis, for a nation's rights restored? And alas, to think but now, and thou art lying, dear Davis, dead at thy mother's knee, and I, no mother near, on my own sick bed, that face on earth shall never see. I may lie, and try to feel that I am dreaming. I may lie, and try to say, thy will be done. But 100 such as I will never comfort Erin for the loss of the noble son, young husbandman of Erin's fruitful seed time, in the fresh track of danger's plough, who will walk the heavy, toilsome, perilous furrow, girt with freedom's seed sheets now, who will banish with the wholesome crop of knowledge the daunting weed and the bitter thorn, now that thou thyself art but a seed for hopeful planting against the resurrection morn. Young salmon of the flood tide of freedom that swells round Erin's shore, thou wilt leap against their loud oppressive torrent of bigotry and hate no more, drawn downward by their prone material instinct. Let them thunder on their rocks and foam. Thou hast leapt, aspiring soul, to founts beyond their raging, where troubled waters never come. But I grieve not, eagle of the empty eyrie, that thy wrathful cry is still, and that the songs alone of peaceful mourners are heard to-day on earth's hill. Better far, if brothers' war be destined for us, God avert that horrid day, I pray, that ere our lands be stained with slaughter, fratricidal, thy warm heart should be cold in clay. But my trust is strong in God, who made us brothers, that He will not suffer their right hands, which thou hast joined in holier rites than wedlock, to draw opposing brands. Oh, many a tuneful tongue that thou madest vocal would lie cold and silent then, and songless long once more, should often widowed Erin mourn the loss of her brave young men. O brave young men! My love, my pride, my promise, 'tis on you my hopes are set, in manliness, in kindliness, in justice, to make Erin a nation yet, self-respecting, self-relying, self-advancing, in union or in severance, free and strong. And if God grant this, then under God, to Thomas Davis let the greater praise belong. End of Lament for Thomas Davis by Sir Samuel Ferguson. This recording is in the public domain.
Blessings by Winifred M. Letts. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Blessings. It's what I thank God for each night. A little cabin that's mine by right, the strength of a man for work or fight, and food and light. It's what I thank God for each day. A wife with never too much to say, a wife, a dog, and a child for play. For those I'd pray. I thank God for the land I tread, a pipe to smoke and an easy bed, the thatch I made that's over my head, and daily bread. I thank God for an Irish name, and a son of mine to bear the same, my own to love me and none to blame, no more I'd claim. End of Blessings by Winifred M. Letts. This recording is in the public domain. Read by Douglas Woolley.
The Slaying of Conbeg, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by A&B Suite 13. A beloved hound of Fion's, which Goll MacMorna drowned in despite of Fionn. Sore grief to me, Conbeg, that you are drowned, my little hound for brightness without peer. Never was one so swift or deft of foot seen in pursuit of rushing boar or deer. Sore grief to me, Conbeg, that you lie drowned, my little hound, whose bay was music clear. Never was one so deft or swift of pace found in the chase of proud, high-stepping deer. Sore grief to me, Conbeg, that you lie drowned upon the mighty mounded grey-green sea. Your cruel loss let loose a flood of strife, a fill of sorrow, alas, through life to me. Translated from the Colloquy of the Ancients. End of The Slaying of Conbeg. This recording is in the public domain.
The Wedding of the Clans by Aubrey de Vere. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. I go to knit two clans together, our clan and this clan unseen of yore. Our clan fears naught, but I go, oh whither? This day I go from my mother's door. Thou, Redbreast, singest the old song over, though many a time hast thou sung it before. They never sent thee to some strange new lover, to sing a new song by my mother's door. I stepped from my little room down by the ladder that never so shook before. I was sad last night, today I am sadder, because I go from my mother's door. The last snow melts upon bush and bramble, the gold bars shine on the forest's floor. Shake not, thou leaf, it is I must tremble, because I go from my mother's door. From a Spanish sailor a dagger I bought me, I trailed a rose bush our grey-born o'er. The creed and the letters our old bard taught me, my days were sweet by my mother's door. My little white goat, that with raised feet huggest the oak stock, thy horns in the ivy frore, could I wrestle like thee, how the wreaths thou tuggest, I never would move from my mother's door. Oh, weep no longer, my nurse and mother, my foster sister, weep not so sore. You cannot come with me, ere my brother, Alone I go from my mother's door. Farewell, my wolfhound that slew Mac-Owen, as he caught me and far through the thickets bore. My heifer Alb in the green vale lowing, my cygnet's nest upon Loma's shore. He has killed 10 chiefs, this chief that plights me. His hand is like that of the giant Balor, but I fear his kiss, and his beard affrights me, and the great stone dragon above his door. Had I daughters 9, with me they should tarry. They should sing old songs, they should dance at my door. They should grind at the quern, no need to marry. Oh, when shall this marriage day be o'er? Had I buried, like Morin, 3 mates already, I might say 3 husbands, then why not 4? But my hand is cold and my foot unsteady, because I never was married before. End of The Wedding of the Clans by Aubrey de Vere. This recording is in the public domain.
Eamon and Chinook, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by A&B Suite 13. From the Irish. Now who is without, with a heart-piercing shout, beating my bolted door? I am Ned of the Hill, wet, weary, and chill, from long walking the mountain-side over. O bright love and dear, what could I do here, but cover you up with my gown? While shots thick and true they rained upon you, till together in death we went down. Not a comrade I know, as I desolate go, out under the snow and the frost, my team loose from the yoke, my fellows unbroke, my land to be evermore lost. Not a friend have I got, I am heavy for that, later early to take Eamon in, and so I must flee, east over the sea, where strangers are kinder than kin. End of Eamon and Chinook. This recording is in the public domain.
The Blind Poet by Anthony Raftery, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Andrea Bertelli. The Blind Poet, from the Irish of Raftery. I am the poet Raftery, full of hope and charity, with eyes that at the day but guess, with gentleness in misery. West I wander through the night, by the light of my own mind. Weak and wearied I contend, till my journey's end I find. I who once in halls of state, good and great received for song, harp amid the rain and wind, to a kind but coinless throng. End of The Blind Poet by Anthony Raftery. This recording is in the public domain.
My Ulick by Francis Davis, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by A&B Suite 13. My Ulick is sturdy and strong, and light is his foot on the heather, and truth has been wed to his tongue, since first we were talking together. And though he is lord of no lands, nor castle, nor cattle, nor dairy, my boy has his health in his hands, and a heart-load of love for his Mary, and what should a maiden wish more? One day at the heel of the eve, I mind it was snowing and blowing, my mother was knitting, I believe, for me I was singing and sewing. My father had read the news over, and as he sat humming "We'll wake 'em," my Ulick stepped in at the door, as white as the weather could make him. True love never cooled with a frost. He shook the snow out of his phrase, and drew up a chair by my father. My spirits leaped up in my eyes, to see the two sitting together. They talked of our land and its wrongs, till both were as mad as starvation. Then Ulick sang 3 or 4 songs, and closed with hurrah for the nation. Oh, Ulick's an Irishman still. My father caught hold of his hand, their hearts melted into each other, while tears that she couldn't command broke loose from the eyes of my mother. Our freedom, she sighed, withered through. A woman can say little in it, but had it come by you too, I've a guess at the way we would win it. 'Twould not be by weeping, I swear. End of My Eunuch by Francis Davis. This recording is in the public domain.
Draherin o Machree by Michael Hogan. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. I grieve when I think of the dear happy days of my youth, when all the bright dreams of this faithless world seemed truth, when I strayed through the green wood as gay as a midsummer bee, in brotherly love with my Draherin o Machree. Together we lay in the sweet-scented meadow to rest, together we watched the gay lark as he sung o'er his nest, together we plucked the red fruit of the fragrant hall tree, and I loved, as a sweetheart, my Draherin o Machree. His form was straight as a hazel that grows in the glen, his manners were courteous and social and gay among men, his bosom was white as the lily on summer's green lea, his God's brightest image was Draherin o Machree. Oh, sweet were his words as the honey that falls in the night, and his young smiling face like the May bloom was fresh and as bright. His eyes were like dew on the flower of the sweet apple tree. My heart's spring and summer was Draherin o Machree. He went to the wars when proud England united with France. His regiment was first in the red battle charge to advance. But when night drew its veil o'er the gory and life-wasting fray, pale, bleeding, and cold lay my Draherin o Machree. Now I'm left to weep like the sorrowful bird of the night. This earth and its pleasures no more shall afford me delight. The dark narrow grave is the only sad refuge for me, since I lost my heart's darling, my Draherin o Machree. End of Draherin o Machree by Michael Hogan. This recording is in the public domain.
Dublin Bay by Lady Dufferin. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Aiken. O Bay of Dublin, how my heart you're troublin'. Your beauty haunts me like a fevered dream, like frozen fountains that the sun sets bubblin'. My heart's blood warms when I but hear your name. And never till this life's pulsation ceases, my earliest, latest thought you'll fail to be. Oh, none here knows how very fair that place is, and no one cares how dear it is to me. Sweet Wicklow Mountains, the soft sunlight sleepin' on your green uplands is a picture rare. You crowd around me like young maidens peepin', and puzzlin' me to say which is most fair, as though you longed to see your own sweet faces reflected in that smooth and silver sea. My fondest blessing on those lovely places, though no one cares how dear they are to me. How often, when alone at work I'm sittin', and musing sadly on the days of yore, I think I see my pretty Katy knittin', the childer playing round the cabin door. I think I see the neighbours' kindly faces, all gathered round their long-lost friend to see, though none here knows how very fair that place is, Heaven knows how dear my poor home was to me. End of poem. Reader's note. This poem became a popular ballad in Ireland in the mid-1800s. Here follows the first verse sung to the tune, which is also attributed to Lady Dufferin. O Bay of Dublin, how my heart you're troubling, your beauty haunts me like a fevered dream, like frozen fountains that the sun sets bubbling. My heart's blood warms when I but hear your name. And never till this life's pulsation ceases, my earliest, latest thought you'll fail to be. Oh, none here knows how very fair that place is, and no one cares how dear it is to me. End of Dublin Bay by Lady Dufferin. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aiken. The Kilruddery Hunt by Thomas Mosine, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Aiken. In 1744, the 5th of December, I think 'twas no more, at 5 in the morning by most of the clocks, we rode from Kilruddery in search of a fox. The Loughlin's town landlord, the brave Owen Bray, and Johnny Adair too were with us that day. Joe Devil, Hal Preston, those huntsmen so stout, Dick Holmes, some few others, and so we set out. We cast off our hounds for an hour or more, when Wanton set up a most tunable roar. "Hark, Wanton!" cried Joe, and the rest were not slack, for Wanton's no trifler, esteemed by the pack. Old Bounty and Collier came readily in, and every hound joined in the musical din. Had Diana been there, she'd been pleased to the life, and one of the lads got a goddess to wife. 10 minutes past 9 was the time of the day, when Reynard broke cover, and this was his way. As strong from Kilgar as if he could fear none, away he brushed round by the house of Kiltiernan. To Carrickmines thence, and to Cherrywood then, steep Shankill he climbed, and to Ballyman Glen. Bray Common he crossed, leapt Lord Anglesea's wall, and seemed to say, "Little I care for you all." He ran Brush's Grove up to Carberry Burns. Joe Devil, Hal Preston, kept leading by turns. The earth it was open, yet he was so stout, though he might have got in, still he chose to keep out. To Malpass high hills was the way that he flew. At Darky's Stone Common we had him in view. He drove on to Bullock, he slunk Gennegeary, and on to Monkstown, where Larry grew weary. Through Rochestown Wood like an arrow he passed, and came to the steep hills of Darky at last. There gallantly plunged himself into the sea, and said in his heart, "None can now follow me." But soon to his cost he perceived that no bounds could stop the pursuit of the staunch mettled hounds. His policy here did not serve him a rush. 5 couple of Tartars were hard on his brush. To recover the shore then again was his drift, but ere he could reach to the top of the cliff, he found both of speed and of daring a lack, being waylaid and killed by the rest of the pack. At his death there were present the lads I have sung, save Larry, who, riding a garron, was flung. Thus ended at length a most delicate chase, that held us 5 hours and 10 minutes' space.
End of The Kilruddery Hunt by Thomas Mosine. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aiken.
A Dream by William Allingham. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. I heard the dogs howl in the moonlight night. I went to the window to see the sight. All the dead that ever I knew, going one by one and two by two. On they passed, and on they passed, townsfellows all, from first to last, born in the moonlight of the lane, quenched in the heavy shadow again. Schoolmates, marching as when they played at soldiers once, but now more staid. Those were the strangest sight to me, who were drowned, I knew, in the awful sea. Straight and handsome folk, bent and weak too, some that I loved, and gasped to speak to. Some but a day in their churchyard bed, some that I had not known were dead. A long, long crowd, where each seemed lonely, yet of them all there was one only, raised a head or looked my way. She lingered a moment, she might not stay. How long since I saw that fair, pale face! Ah, mother dear, might I only place my head on thy breast a moment to rest, while thy hand on my tearful cheek were pressed. On, a moving bridge they made, across the moon stream from shade to shade. Young and old, women and men, many long forgot, but remembered then. And first there came a bitter laughter, a sound of tears a moment after, and then a music so lofty and gay, that every morning, day by day, I strive to recall it, if I may. End of A Dream by William Allingham. This recording is in the public domain.
A Peasant Woman's Song by Dion Boucicault. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. It's lonely in the night when Pat is sleeping by my side. I lie awake, and no one knows the big tears that I've cried, for a little voice still calls me back to my far, far country, and nobody can hear it spake. Oh, nobody but me. There is a little spot of ground behind the chapel wall. It's nothing but a tiny mound, without a stone at all. It rises like my heart just now. It makes a dawny hill. It's from below the voice comes out. I cannot keep it still. Oh, little voice, ye call me back to my far, far country, and nobody can hear ye spake. Oh, nobody but me. End of A Peasant Woman's Song by Dion Boucicault. This recording is in the public domain. Kitty of Coleraine by Anonymous. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. As beautiful Kitty one morn was tripping with a pitcher of milk from the fair of Coleraine, when she saw me she stumbled, the pitcher down tumbled, and all the sweet buttermilk watered the plain. Oh, what shall I do now? 'Twas looking at you now. Sure, such a pitcher I'll ne'er meet again. 'Twas the pride of my dairy. Oh, Barney O'Cleary, your centre's a plague to the girls of Coleraine. I sat down beside her, and gently did chide her, that such a misfortune should give her such pain. A kiss then I gave her, and ere I did leave her, she vowed for such pleasure she'd break it again. 'Twas haymaking season, I can't tell the reason, misfortunes will never come single, 'tis plain. For very soon after poor Kitty's disaster, the devil a pitcher was whole in Coleraine. End of Kitty of Coleraine by Anonymous. This recording is in the public domain.
The Low-Backed Car by Samuel Lover from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nettle. When first I saw sweet Peggy, 'twas on a market day. A low-backed car she drove and sat upon a truss of hay. But when that hay was blooming grass, and decked with flowers of spring, no flower was there that could compare with the blooming girl I sing. As she sat in the low-backed car, the man at the turnpike bar never asked for the toll, but just rubbed his old pole and looked after the low-backed car. In battle's wild commotion, the proud and mighty Mars, with hostile sides, demands his tides of death in warlike cars. While Peggy, peaceful goddess, has darts in her bright eye, that knock men down in the market town as right and left they fly. While she sits in her low-backed car, then battle more dangerous far, for the doctor's art cannot cure the heart that is hit from that low-backed car. Sweet Peggy round her car, sir, hath strings of ducks and geese, but the scores of hearts she slaughters by far outnumber these. While she among her poultry sits, just like a turtle dove, well worth the cage I do engage of the blooming god of love. While she sits in her low-backed car, the lovers come near and far, and envy the chicken that Peggy is pickin' as she sits in the low-backed car. Oh, I'd rather own that car, sir, with Peggy by my side, than a coach and four and gold galore and a lady for my bride. For the lady would sit forninst me on a cushion made with taste, while Peggy would sit beside me with my arm around her waist. While we drove in the low-backed car to be married by Father Marr, oh, my heart would beat high at her glance and her sigh, though it beat in a low-backed car. End of The Low-Backed Car by Samuel Lover. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Nettle.
The Dark Girl by the Holy Well by John Keegan. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Mother, is that the passing bell, or yet the midnight chime, or rush of angels' golden wings, or is it near the time? The time when God, they say, comes down this weary world upon, with Holy Mary at his right, and at his left St. John. I'm dumb, my heart forgets to throb, my blood forgets to run, but vain my sighs, in vain I sob, God's will must still be done. I hear but tone of warning bell, for holy priest or nun. On earth God's face I'll never see, nor Mary, nor St. John. Mother, my hopes are gone again, my heart is black as ever. Mother, I say, look forth once more, and see, can you discover God's glory in the crimson clouds? See, does he ride upon that perfumed breeze, or do you see the Virgin or St. John? Ah no, ah no. Well, God of peace, grant me thy blessing still. Oh, make me patient with my doom, and happy at thy will. and guide my footsteps so on earth that, when I'm dead and gone, my eyes may catch thy shining lights with Mary and St. John. Yet, mother, could I see your smile before we part below, or watch the silver moon or stars where Slaney's ripples flow? Oh, could I see the sweet sunshine my native hills upon, I'd never love my God the less, nor Mary, nor St. John. But no, ah no, it cannot be. Yet, mother, do not mourn. Come, kneel again, and pray to God. In peace let us return. The dark girl's doom must aye be mine, but heaven will light me on, until I find my way to God, and Mary, and St. John. End of The Dark Girl by the Holy Well by John Keegan. This recording is in the public domain.
The Potato Digger's Song by Thomas Caulfield Irwin, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org, recording by AMB Suite 13. Come, Conall Cushla, turn the clay, and show the lumpers the light gossoon, for we must toil this autumn day, with heaven's help, till rise of the moon. Our corn is stacked, our hay secure, thank God, and nothing, my boy, remains but to pile the potatoes safe on the fleur, before the coming November rains. The peasant's mind is his harvest still, so now, my lads, let's work with a will. Work hand and foot, work spade in hand, work spade in hand, through the crumbly mould. The blessed fruit that grows at the root is the real gold of Ireland. Och, I wish that Morris and Mary dear were singing beside us this soft day. Of course they're far better off than here, but whether they're happier, who can say? I've heard when it's morn with us, 'tis night with them on the far Australian shore. Well, heaven be about them with visions bright, and send them childer and money galore. With us there's many a mouth to fill, and so, my boy, let's work with a will. Work hand and foot, work spade in hand, work spade in hand, through the brown dry mould. The blessed fruit that grows at the root is the real gold of Ireland. Ah, then, Paddy O'Riordan, your thundering Turk, is it courting you in the blessed noon? Come over here, Kitty, and mind your work, or I'll see if your mother can't change your tune. Well, youth will be youth, as you know, Mike. 16 and 20 for each were meant, but Pat, in the name of the fairies of defer your proposals till after Lent. And as love in this country lives mostly still, on potatoes dig, boy, dig with a will. Work hand and foot, work spade in hand, work spade in hand, through the harvest mould. The blessed fruit that grows at the root is the real gold of Ireland. Down the bridle road the neighbours ride, through the light ash shade by the wheaten sheaves, and the children sing on the mountain side, in the sweet blue smoke of the burning leaves. As the great sun sets in glory furled, faith, it's grand to think as I watch his face. If he never sets on the English world, he never, lad, set on the Irish race. In the west, in the south, New Ireland still, grow up in his light. Come work with a will, work hand and foot, work spade in hand, work spade in hand, through the native mould. The blessed fruit that grows at the root is the real gold of Ireland. But look, the round moon, yellow as corn, comes up from the sea in the deep blue calm. It scarcely seems a day since morn. Well, the heel of the evening to you, ma'am. God bless the moon, for many a night, as I restless lay on a troubled bed, when rent was due, her quieting light has flattered with dreams my poor old head. But see, the basket remains to fill, Come, girls, be alive, boys, dig with a will, work hand and foot, work spade in hand, work spade in hand. Through the moonlit mould, the blessed fruit that grows at the root is the real gold of Ireland. End of The Potato Digger's Song by Thomas Caulfield Irwin. This recording is in the public domain.
A Drunkard's Address to a Bottle of Whiskey by Joseph Sheridan Lefanu. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. From what dripping cell, through what fairy glen, where midst old rocks and ruins the fox makes his den, over what lonesome mountain, a Clusha Macree, where gazure never trod, sweet as the flowery sod, wild as the breath of the breeze on the heath, and sparkling all o'er like the moonlighted fountain, are come to me, sorrowful me, dancing, inspiring, my wild blood firing. O terrible glory, O beautiful siren, come, tell the old story. Come, light up my fancy and open my heart. O beautiful ruin, my life, my undoing, soft and fierce as a pantheress, dream of my longing and wreck of my soul. I never knew love till I loved you, enchantress. At first, when I knew you, 'twas only flirtation, the touch of a lip and the flash of an eye. But 'tis different now, 'tis desperation. I worship before you, I curse and adore you, and without you I die. Whereas through, I wish 'twas again the happy time when I cared little about you, could do well without you, but would just laugh and view you. 'Tis little I knew you. Oh, terrible darling, how have you sought me, enchanted and caught me? See now where you've brought me, to sleep by the roadside and dress out in rags. Think how you found me, dreams come around me. The dew of my childhood and life's morning beam, now I sleep by the roadside, a wretch all in rags. My heart that sang merrily when I was young, swells up like a billow and bursts in despair, and the wreck of my hopes on sweet memory flung, and cries on the air, are all that is left of the dream. Whereas through, my father and mother, the priest and my brother, not a one has a good word for you. But I can't part you, darling, their preaching's all vain. I'll burn in my heart till these thin pulses stop, and the wild cup of life in your fragrance I'll drain, to the last brilliant drop. Then oblivion will cover the shame that is over, the brain that was mad, and the heart that was sore. Then, beautiful witch, I'll be found in a ditch, with your kiss on my cold lips, and never rise more. End of A Drunkard's Address to a Bottle of Whiskey by Joseph Sheridan Lefanu. This recording is in the public domain.
Soggarth Aroon by John Bannum. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Lydia. Am I the slave they say, Soggarth Aroon? Since you did show the way, Soggarth Aroon. Their slave no more to be, while they would work with me. Old Ireland's slavery, Soggarth Aroon. Why not her poorest man, Soggarth Aroon? Try and do all he can, Soggarth Aroon. Her commands to fulfill of her own heart and will, side by side with you still, Soggarth Aroon. Loyal and brave to you, Soggarth Aroon, yet not be slave to you, Soggarth Aroon. Nor, out of fear to you, stand up so near to you, och, out of fear to you, Soggarth Aroon. Who, in the winter's night, Soggarth Aroon, when the cold blast did bite, Soggarth Aroon, came to my cabin door, and on my earthen floor knelt by me, sick and poor, Soggarth Aroon. Who on the marriage day, Soggarth Aroon, made the poor cabin gay, Soggarth Aroon, and did both laugh and sing, making our hearts to ring at the poor christening, Soggarth Aroon. Who, as friend only met, Soggarth Aroon, never did flout me yet, Soggarth Aroon, and when my heart was dim, gave, while his eye did brim, what I should give to him, Soggarth Aroon. Och, you and only you, Soggarth Aroon, and for this I was true to you, Soggarth Aroon. Our love they'd never shake, when for Old Ireland's sake we a true part did take, Soggarth Aroon. End of Soggarth Aroon by John Banham. This recording is in the public domain.
Father O'Flynn, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Of priests we can offer a charming variety, far renowned for learning in piety. Still I advance you without propriety, Father O'Flynn as the flower of them all. Here's a health to you, Father O'Flynn, slaint and slaint and slaint again. Powerfulest preacher in Tinder is teacher, and kindliest creature in old Donegal. Don't talk of your provost and fellows of Trinity, famous forever at Greek and Latinity. Dad and the divils at all divinity, Father O'Flynn make hares of them all. Come, I venture to give you my word, never the likes of his logic was heard. Down from mythology into theology, troth and conchology, if he'd the call. Here's a health to you, Father O'Flynn, slaint and slaint and slaint again. Powerfulest preacher in Tinder is teacher, and kindliest creature in old Donegal. Och, Father O'Flynn, you've a wonderful way with you. All old sinners are wishful to pray with you. All the young children are wild for to play with you. You've such a way with you, Father O'Vic. Still, for all you're so gentle a soul, gad you've your flock in the grandest control, checking the crazy ones, coaxing on lazy ones, lifting the lazy ones on with the stick. Here's a health to you, Father O'Flynn, slaint and slaint and slaint again. Powerfulest preacher in Tinder is teacher, and kindliest creature in old Donegal. And though quite avoiding all foolish frivolity, still at all seasons of innocent jollity, where was the playboy could claim an equality at comicality, father, with you? Once the bishop looked grave at your jest, till this remark set him off with the rest. Is it lave gaiety all to the laity? Cannot the clergy be Irishmen too? Here's a health to you, Father O'Flynn. Slaint and slaint and slaint again. Powerfulest preacher in tenderest teacher and kindliest creature in old Donegal. End of Father O'Flynn. This recording is in the public domain.
The River by Charlotte Grace O'Brien. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. Poor Mick was trotting on to the town, the sidecar under him going. He looked on the water, swollen and brown. He looked on the river flowing. The day was drear and heavy and dank. A sleety wind was blowing, and the river, creeping up over the bank, was into the roadside going. Now, all that day till the night drew near, for the wind was bitterly blowing, poor Mick sat gossiping here and there, while the river was steadily flowing. "And why would ye lave? 'Tis a cruel night. Oh, why should ye be going? Bide ye here till the morning light, for the blackest wind is blowing. The wife will be wanting her bread and tay, and oil for to light her sewing. Myself never minded the roughest day, or the blackest black wind blowing. Gie along, old mare, get up out of that, for sure 'tis home we're going." He buttoned his coat and settled his hat, nor thought of the river flowing. But cold and drear and dark was the night, the sleety wind was blowing, and where the road that morning was right, the river's edge was flowing. Move on for the childer, move on for the wife, they listen, the north wind's blowing. Move on for the gasping, struggling life, move on for the river flowing. The morrow's morn saw the trembling mare, saw the river muddily flowing, saw boys and men seeking here and there, though the soft south winds were blowing. Oh, the early sun is fair to see, and the winter will soon be going, but deep and dank and dark lies he, though the sweet south winds are blowing. End of The River by Charlotte Grace O'Brien. This recording is in the public domain.
Tom Moody by Andrew Cherry. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. You all know Tom Moody, the whipper-in well. The bell just done tolling was honest Tom's knell. A sportsman nor able ne'er followed a hound through a country well known to him 50 miles round. No hound ever opened with Tom near the wood, but he'd challenge the tone and could tell if 'twere good, and all with attention would eagerly mark when he cheered up the pack. Hark to Rookwood, hark, hark! High wind him and cross him, now Rattler boy, hark! 6 crafty earth-stroppers in hunter's green dressed supported poor Tom to an earth made for rest. His horse, which he styled his old soul, next appeared, on whose forehead the brush of the last fox was reared. Whip, cap, boots, and spurs in a trophy were bound, and here and there followed an old straggling hound. Ah, no more at his voice yonder vales will they trace, nor the welkin resound to the burst in the chase. With high over now press him, tally-ho, tally-ho. Thus Tom spoke his friends ere he gave up his breath. Since I see you're resolved to be in at the death, one favour bestow, 'tis the last I shall crave. Give a rattling view halloo thrice over my grave. And unless at that warning I lift up my head, my boys, you may fairly conclude that I'm dead. Honest Tom was obeyed, and the shout rent the sky, for every voice joined in the tally-ho cry. Tally-ho, hark forward, tally-ho, tally-ho. End of Tom Moody by Andrew Cherry. This recording is in the public domain.
Herring is King by Anonymous. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. Let all the fish that swim the sea, salmon and turbot, cod and ling, bow down the head and bend the knee to herring their king, to herring their king. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. The sun sank down so round and red upon the bay, upon the bay. The sails shook idly overhead. Becalmed we lay, becalmed we lay. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. Till Sean, the eagle, dropped on deck, the bright-eyed boy, the bright-eyed boy. 'Tis he has spied your silver track, herring our joy, herring our joy. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. It was in with the sails and away to the shore, with the rise and swing, the rise and swing of two stout lads at each smoking oar, after herring our king, herring our king. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. The Manx and the Cornish raised the shout, and joined the chase, and joined the chase, but their fleets they fouled as they went about, and we won the race, we won the race. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. For we turned and faced you full to land, down the Goleen Long, the Goleen Long, and after you slipped from strand to strand, our nets so strong, our nets so strong. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. Then we called to our sweethearts and our wives, come, welcome us home, welcome us home, till they ran to meet us for their lives, into the foam, into the foam. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. Oh, the kissing of hands and waving of caps, from girl and boy, from girl and boy, while you leapt by scores in the lasses' laps, herring our pride and joy. Sing, Thugamar Fain on Samrad Lin, 'tis we have brought the summer in. End of Herring is King by Anonymous. This recording is in the public domain.
The Irish Widow's Message to Her Son in America by Ellen Forrester. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Aiken Payne. Remember, Dennis, all I bade you say. Tell him we're well and happy, thank the Lord. But of all our troubles since he went away, you'll mind a Vic and never say a word. Of cares and troubles, sure we've had all our share. The finest summer isn't always fair. Tell him the spotted heifer calved in May. She died, poor thing, but that you needn't mind, nor how the constant rain destroyed the hay. But tell him God to us was always kind, and when the fever spread the country o'er, His mercy kept the sickness from the door. Be sure to tell him how the neighbours came and cut the corn and stored it in the barn. 'Twould be as well to mention them by name, Pat Murphy, Ned McCabe and James McCann, and Big Tim Daly from behind the hill. But say agra, oh say I miss him still. They came with ready hands our toil to share. 'Twas then I missed him most, my own right hand. I felt, although kind hearts were round me there, the kindest heart beat in a foreign land. Strong arm, brave heart, oh, severed far from me by many a weary mile of shore and sea. You tell him she was with us, he'll know who. A warning, hasn't she the winsome eyes? The darkest, deepest, brightest, bonniest blue that ever shone, except in summer skies. And such black hair! It is the blackest hair that ever rippled o'er a neck so fair. Tell him that Pincher fretted many a day. Poor fellow, he had like to die, crouched by the roadside. How he watched the way and sniffed the travellers as they passed him by. Hail, rain, and sunshine, sure, 'twas all the same. He listened for the foot that never came. Tell him the house is lonesome like and cold. The fire itself seems robbed of half its light. But maybe 'tis my eyes are growing old, and things grow dim before my failing sight. For all that, tell him 'twas myself that spun the shirts you bring, and stitched them, every one. Give him my blessing, morning, noon, and night. Tell him my prayers are offered for his good, that he may keep his Maker still in sight, and firmly stand as his brave father stood, true to his name, his country, and his God, faithful at home and steadfast still abroad. End of The Irish Widow's Message to Her Son in America by Ellen Forrester. This recording is in the public domain.
Herself and Myself, an Old Man's Song by Patrick J. McCall from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org, recording by Mickey Lee Rich. 'Twas beyond at Macreddin, at Owen Doyle's weddin', the boys got the pair of us out for a reel. Says I, boys excuse us. Says they, don't refuse us. I'll play nice and aisy, says Larry O'Neill. So off we went trippin' it up and down steppin' it, herself and myself on the back of the door, till Molly, God bless her, fell into the dresser, and I tumbled over a child on the floor. Says herself to myself, we're as good as the best of them. Says myself to herself, sure we're better than gold. Says herself to myself, we're as young as the rest of them. Says myself to herself, troth we'll never grow old. As down the lane goin', I felt my heart growin' as young as it was 45 years ago. 'Twas here in this boreen I first kissed my storeen, a sweet little Colleen with skin like the snow. I looked at my woman, a song she was hummin', as old as the hills, so I gave her a poke. 'Twas like our old courtin', half serious, half sportin', when Molly was young and when hoops were in vogue. When she'd say to myself, you can court with the best of them, when I'd say to herself, sure, I'm better than gold. When she'd say to myself, you're as wild as the rest of them, and I'd say to herself, troth, I'm time enough old. End of Herself and Myself, an Old Man's Song. This recording is in the public domain.
Song of an Island Fisherman by Catherine Tynan Hinkson from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org, recording by Aiken. I groan as I put out my nets upon the say, to hear the little gearshaws shout a dance among the spray. Ochone, the childer pass away and leave us to our grief. The stranger took my little lass at falling of the leaf. Why would you go so fast with him you never knew? In all the trouble that is past, I never frowned on you. The light of my old eyes you are, the comfort of my heart. Waiting for me your mother lies in blessed Inish art. Her lonesome grave I keep from all the cold world wide, but you in life and death will sleep, the stranger still beside. Ach, own my thoughts are dark and wild, but little blame, I say, an old man hungering for his child, a work the livelong day. You will not run again, laughing to see me land. Oh, what was pain and trouble then, holding your little hand? Or when your darling head let fall its soft cuddles on my breast? Why do the childer grow at all to love the stranger best? End of Song of an Island Fisherman by Catherine Tynan Hinkson. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aiken. O Drimeen Do Deelish, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org, recording by Aiken. O Drimeen Do Deelish, my kind Kerry cow, as black as the night, with one star on her brow. For Drimeen Do Deelish, the silk of the kine, for Drimeen Do Deelish, I mourn and I pine. Asoroo Drimeen Do, achoroo a gra, Asoroo Drimeen Do, good dee to slan. For when to the milking I'd call Drimeen Do, 'twas then like a deer down the mountain she flew. And when beneath her the stool I would place, how oft on my shoulder she rubbed her soft face. Asoroo Drimeen Do, achoroo a gra, Asoroo Drimeen Do, good dee to slan. And though 16 gallons from Drimeen would hail, and under my fingers froth up in the pail, she'd ne'er kicked one keeler away o'er the green, for no cow genteeler than Drimeen was seen. Asoroo Drimeen Do, achoroo a gra, Asoroo Drimeen Do, good dee to slan. The mountain bog slid and surprised Drimeen Do, though bravely she battled to break her way through, till down she went with a drizzin and drone, poor Drimeen Do Deelish, and left us alone. Asoroo Drimeen Do, achoroo a gra, Asoroo Drimeen Do, good dee to slan. When other cows ailed in the wet and the cold, our Drimeen was ever more hearty and bold, straight back and firm body and honey sweet breath, mild eyes and grave manners, how could you know death? Asoroo Drimeen Do, achoroo a gra, Asoroo Drimeen Do, good dee to slan. O silk of the kine, when among us you stood, no milk was as fine and no butter as good, but oh, 'tis chill water, and oh, 'tis dry scone, since Drimeen Do Deelish is gone. Asoroo Drimeen Do, achoroo a gra, Asoroo Drimeen Do, Goody to Slán. End of O Drimmin Do Deelish. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aiken.
Preparation for Winter by Patrick J. McCall from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org, recording by Christine Wales. There's a cabin with a brand new coat of thatch, Nora dear. 'Tis as cozy as the overcoat I've on, and the stack that's in the Haggerty won't match, Nora dear. Sure, the neighbors call Lagnakeela's son. I've put bushes in the gaps and the doors I've painted green, and the garden wall I've nately repaired. If only had yourself, dear, I could say like king or queen, roll on, winter, I'm well prepared. There's an acre of potatoes in the pit, Nora dear. Truth, I've turf enough to light me to fame, and the corner of the kitchen where you'd sit, Nora dear, is a pleasant place to talk or to dream. Aye, but lonesomest of all is the heart there above. If the wind through the corners you've heard, you'd step into it at once with a turf load of love, crying, Winter, I'm well prepared. Preparation for Winter by Patrick J. McCall. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Christine Wales.
My Blessing Be on Waterford by Winifred M. Letts. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Aiken, Waterford, Ireland. My blessing be on Waterford, the town of ships, for it's what I love to be, streeling on the quay, watching while the boats go out, watching them come in, and thinking of the one I know that's sailing far away. It's well to be in Waterford, to see the ships, the great big masts of them against the evening sky, seagulls flying round, and the men unloading them, with queer strange talk among themselves the time you're passing by. I love to be in Waterford to see the ships come in, bringing in their cargoes from west and east and south. Some day one I love will stand here upon the quay. He'll take my 2 hands in his own and stoop to kiss my mouth. End of My Blessing Be on Waterford by Winifred M. Letts. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aiken.
If All the Young Maidens by Patrick J. McCall. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nettle. If all the young maidens were blackbirds and thrushes, a-making sweet music in white flowering bushes, no work I'd be doing, I'd sit and be strewing the grains of my barn for the sake of their song. If all the young maidens were cowslips and daisies, till filled was the meadow with sweet pretty faces, I'd scratch my head over and chew a red clover, the sorrow a scythe would I sweep through the throng. If all the young maidens were stars in heaven, out peeping like mice through the chinks of the even, no sleep I'd be getting, but sighing and fretting, when dawn's whiskered cat stretches out her long tongue. If all the young maidens were mealy potatoes, a-laughing and smiling, "Young man, come and aid us," I'd die of starvation, a sight for the nation, and lie in my grave ere I'd put in a prong. So see you, Molly O, I've a heart soft and tender, and don't you stand out, but just make your surrender. If you're bold like these thrushes that fight in the bushes, I'll turn to some blackbird and sing you my song. End of If All the Young Maidens by Patrick J. McCall. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Nettle.
The Sixth Road Ends by Will Carew, from the Book of Irish Poetry Part 2, read for LibriVox.org, recording by Adam Bielka. The Sixth Road Ends. When folks hae got to meeting on a Sabbath dinner o'er, the neighbours all gather and they'll pass a friendly hour. O'er the doings of the week, tongues wag and cuddies reek, every Sabbath evening at the Sixth Road Ends. If coming frae the market ye got a wee bit droth, on gang into the public and a tongue had slipped the truth. How ye sold the spunnin mare, bested this yin here and there, you'll hear it on the Sabbath at the Sixth Road Ends. Hey, you got a pound note, ye dinna want to lend? Have ye got a wife that rinned about the spread? And gang and wasted buying things she had nae saw. You'll hear it on the Sabbath at the Sixth Road Ends. Hey, Billy got the measles, or Sammy got the mumps, the brindle cow has died, or your wife hae got the grumps. You'll hear it on Achmer, till your heart is sick and sair. You'll hear it on the Sabbath at the Sixth Road Ends. The latest price of cattle, the prospect o' the crops, is the minister going to marry, or no quite orthodox? How come some countryside magnate slipped a halfpenny on the plate? You'll hear it on the Sabbath at the Sixth Road Ends. I hae got a girl that loves me, her word she gave me true. Her face is fair and kindly, her name I'll nae tell you, we gang where nae'll see. For in troth you'll no catch me courting on the Sabbath near the Sixth Road Ends. Will Carew. End of the Sixth Road Ends. This recording is in the public domain.
God's Fool by Celia Duffin, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. He stumbles down the village street. They crook their fingers as he passes by, and follow with disdainful eye his queer ungainly form and uncouth look. Ah, men, your petty scorning spare, he hath greater cross to bear. A woman turns from scoffing with the rest to push the little child that clings affrighted to her apron strings, or hides a little soft head on her breast. Women, he too was fair of limb, and once a mother prayed for him. Ragged and queer and old he comes alone, but sometimes with mysterious smile he mutters to himself the while, or stops to hold strange converse with a stone. Ah, men, beware lest you should curse the Master of the universe. He claims acquaintance with a leaf wind-blown, or bids good morrow to a toad. So far down the dusty road he stumbles forward into the unknown. Have pity on his passing. He hath trod the road to Calvary. End of God's Fool by Celia Duffin. This recording is in the public domain.
Bonnie Twinkling Starnies by James McCohen, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nettle. Bonnie twinkling starnies, so gentle and so bright, you woo me and you win me with your soft and silver light. Now peepin' over the mountain, now glintin' in the streams, now kissin' the red heather bell, all with your winsome beams. Bonnie twinkling starnies, so gentle and so bright, you woo me and you win me with your soft and silver light. Bonnie twinkling starnies, when gloaming sheds its tinge, and strings the crystal dewdrop around the gowan's fringe, how often do I linger with keen and anxious eye to watch your bonny faces come glintin' from the sky. Starnies twinkling starnies, so gentle and so bright, you woo me and you win me with your soft and silver light. Bonny twinkling starnies, bright guardians of the skies, how can we dream of wickedness beneath your sleepless eyes? Cold and pulseless is the heart, and deeply fraught with guile, who does not feel the low of love when you look down and smile? Bonny twinkling starnies, so gentle and so bright, you woo me and you win me with your soft and silver light. End of Bonny Twinkling Starnies by James McCohen. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Nettle.
They're Only Weans by Patrick Gregory. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Come in, sir, and right welcome to the rain I'm sure you drenched clean through. Take off your coat. What's that you say? You'll not? But aye, you will in truth. That's right. Och, it's an awful day. Johnny, get you up out of there and give the gentleman that chair. Come up, sir, from the door. You look near perish with the cold. Come to the fire, I'll get a bowl, and you'll take just a sup of broth. And sir, you'll pardon me, I'm sure. I didn't mind the kitchen floor. You couldn't keep it clean. The wain's wet sticks the whole day when it rains. You know I can't let them out to play, and many's the scud and clout they get from me. For sir, in truth, sometimes they nearly turn my head. But after all Sir Will said, they're weans. Och aye, they're only weans. End of They're Only Weans. This recording is in the public domain.
The Hill of Dreams by Helen Lanyon from the Book of Irish Poetry Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nettle. My grief for the days that's by and done, when I was a young girl straight and tall, coming alone at set of sun, up the high hill road from Cushendall. I thought the miles no hardship then, nor the long road weary to the feet, for the thrushes sang in the deep green glen, and the evening air was cool and sweet. My head with many a thought was throng, and many a dream as I never told. My heart would lift as a wee bird's song, or at seeing a whin bush crowned with gold. And always I'd look back at the say, here the turn of the road shut out the sight of the long waves curling into the bay, and breaking in foam where the sands is white. I was married young on a decent man, as many would call a prudent choice, but he never could hear how the river ran, singing a song in a changing voice, nor thought to see on the bay's blue weather a ship with yellow sails unfurled, bearing away a king's young daughter over the brim of the heaving world. The way seems weary now to my feet, and miles be many and dreams be few. The evening air not near so sweet, the birds don't sing as they used to do, and I'm that tired at the top of the hill that I haven't the heart to turn at all, to watch the curlin' breakers fill the wee round bay at Cushendall. End of The Hill of Dreams by Helen Lanyon. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Nettle.
The Blue, Blue Smoke from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Adam Bielka. The Blue, Blue Smoke. Oh, many and many a time in the dim old days, when the chapel's distant chime pealed the hour of evening praise, I've bowed my head in prayer, then shouldered scythe or bill, and travelled free of care to my home across the hill, whilst the blue, blue smoke of my cottage in the coombe, softly wreathing, sweetly breathing, waved my thousand welcomes home. For oft and oft I've stood, delighted in the dew, looking down across the wood,
where it stole into my view. Sweet spirit of the sod, of our own Irish earth, going gently up to God from the poor man's hearth. Oh, the blue, blue smoke of my cottage in the coombe, softly wreathing, sweetly breathing, waved my thousand welcomes home. But I hurried swiftly on, when herself from the door came swimming like a swan beside the Shannon shore, and after her in haste, on pretty pattering feet, our rosy cherubs raced, their daddy dear to meet, while the blue, blue smoke of my cottage in the coombe, softly wreathing, sweetly breathing, waved my thousand welcomes home. But the times are sorely changed since those dim old days, and far, far I've ranged from those dear old ways, and my colleen's golden hair to silver all has grown, and our little cherub pair have cherubs of their own, and the black, black smoke, like a heavy funeral plume, darkly wreathing, fearful breathing, crowns the city with its gloom. But 'tis our comfort sweet, through the long toil of life, that will turn with tired feet from the noise and the strife, and wander slowly back in the soft western glow, hand in hand by the track that we trod long ago, till the blue, blue smoke of our cottage in the coombe, softly wreathing, sweetly breathing, waves our thousand welcomes home. End of the blue, blue smoke. This recording is in the public domain.
Out of Hearing by Jane Barlow. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Larry, Johnson City, Tennessee. Out of hearing, no need to hush the children for her sake, or fear their play. She will not wake, Mavrone, she will not wake. 'Tis the long sleep, the deep sleep she'll take. Betide what may, no need to hush the children for her sake, even if their glee should yet again outbreak, so loud and gay. She will not wake, Mavrone, she will not wake. But sorrow a thought have they of Mary make. This many a day, no need to hush the children for her sake. So still they bide, and sad her heart would ache. At their dismay, she will not wake, Mavrone, she will not wake, to bid them laugh, and if some angel spake, small heed they'd pay, no need to hush the children for her sake. She will not wake, Mavrone, she will not wake. End of Out of Hearing by Jane Barlow. This recording is in the public domain.
Like One I Know by Nancy Campbell, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org, recording by Beth Blakely. Little Christ was good and lay, sleeping, smiling in the hay, never made the cow's round eyes open wider at his cries, never when the night was dim, startled guardian seraphim, who above him in the beams kept their watch round his white dreams. Let the rustling brown mice creep undisturbed about his sleep. Yet, if it had not been so, had he been like one I know, fought with little fumbling hands, kicked inside his swaddling bands, puckered wilful crimsoning face, Mary Mother full of grace, at that little naughty thing, still had been a worshipping. End of Like One I Know by Nancy Campbell. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Beth Blakely.
Irish Lullaby by Unknown. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. I'd rock my own sweet chaldie to rest in a cradle of gold, on a bough of the willow, to the shoheen ho of the wind of the wheat, and the lullaby of the soft sea below. Sleep, baby dear, sleep without fear. Mother is here beside your pillow. I'd put my own sweet chaldie to float in a silver boat on the beautiful river, where a shoheen whisper the white cascades, and a lullaby the green flags shiver. Sleep, baby dear, sleep without fear. Mother is here with you forever. Shoheen ho! To the rise and fall of mother's bosom, 'tis sleep has bound you. And oh, my child, what cosier nest for rosier rest could love have found you? Sleep, baby dear, sleep without fear. Mother's two arms are clasped round you. End of Irish Lullaby by Unknown. This recording is in the public domain.
Dreams by Winifred M. Letts from the Book of Irish Poetry Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Beth Blakely. My son is in America, away beyond the sea, but in his dreams he comes back home and looks out towards Knockree. He sees the ribbon of white road go winding towards Glencree, and he knocks with his stick on the open door to call herself and me. All day he's working in the town and moitered with the street, but in his dreams he feels the grass beneath his feet. He wanders up the green hillside, the elder bloom smells sweet. Then he praises God for the Irish air and reek of burning peat. The wonders of the West he sees, for men of wealth live there, in houses reaching to the stars with everything that's fair. But ach, says he, the hills for me, the sight of grouse or hare, the cry of curlews over the bog, the breath of Irish air. End of Dreams by Winifred M. Letts. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Beth Blakely.
In Ballyshannon by Robert J. Kerr. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Standing on the mole beside the salmon leap, by the dancing, singing waters of the Erne, where the town of Ballyshannon lies asleep, in Tyre Connell proud and stern. I behold as in a dream the olden time, and familiar forms in tender sunset glow, and I hear the old Kilbarron belfry chime, as in Sabbaths long ago. In Kilbarron church my mother stood a bride, and its churchyard holds my kindred in its breast. And I stand a stranger where they loved and sighed, and were carried to their rest. Far away the heedless world is surging on, and the distant headlands greet the rising sea, and the soundless dusk is gliding pale and wan round the river mournfully. I go forth as in a vision of the night, and I journey past the bracken and the fern, scarcely listening in the swiftly dying light to the music of the urn. To the wistful cadence of its vesper song, reminiscent of the islands and the lake, whence its waters wandered in a wayward throng for the salt sea surge's sake. And the happy children by the salmon leap, and the happy faces vanished long ago, come to me in fancy as my watch I keep, while the lonely shadows grow. Some perchance sought El Dorado far away, some sought fair renown like valiant knights of old, hearing in their souls the urn's bright waters play, as on elfins' harps of gold. And Tyrconnell's sea cliffs, white with spray and foam, seemed to call the exiles over wave and shore. But the hearth grew cold, and desolate the home, and the children came no more. Only fancies floating through an ancient time, bringing to my soul, like music soft and low, vanished congregations and a Sabbath chime, and the dreams of long ago. Quiet on the town and on the misty urn, quietness tonight as in the buried years, and perchance our hearts new hope and love may learn from forgotten smiles and tears. End of In Ballyshannon by Robert J. Kerr. This recording is in the public domain.
Padraic the Fiddler by Patrick Gregory, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Padraic sits in the garden, in and her the bright new moon, and from his fiddle coaxes a lovely dreamy tune. Och, I love the tune he's playing, and wist it was for me, but I know it's for the birdings up in the cherry tree. Sure, every night they peep from in and her their mother's wings, to hear the silvery music his wee dark fiddle sings. And for them he's always playing, and nae a thought of me, for if I go out he wanders away from the cherry tree. End of Patrick the Fiddler by Patrick Gregory. This recording is in the public domain.
The Starling Lake by Seamus O'Sullivan, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. My sorrow that I am not by the little dun, by the lake of the starlings that rosses under the hill, and the larks there singing o'er the fields of dew, or evening there, and the sedges still. For plain I see now the length of the yellow sand, and Lissadell far off in its leafy ways, and the holy mountain whose mighty heart gathers into it all the coloured days. My sorrow that I am not by the little dun, by the lake of the starlings at evening when all is still, and still in the whispered sedges the herons stand. 'Tis there I would nestle at rest till the quivering moon uprose in the golden quiet over the hill. End of The Starling Lake by Seamus O'Sullivan. This recording is in the public domain.
The Grand Match by Moira O'Neill, from the Book of Irish Poetry Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Beth Blakely. Dennis was hearty when Dennis was young, high was his step and the jig that he sprung, he had the looks and the sootherin' tongue, and he wanted a girl with a fortune. Nanny was grey-eyed and Nanny was tall, fair was the face hidden under her shawl, troth and he'd like her the best of them all, but she'd not a trineen to her fortune. He beat to look out for a likelier match, so he married a girl that was counted a catch, and as ugly as need be the dark little patch, but that was a trifle he told her. She brought him her good-looking gold to admire, she brought him her good-looking cows to his byre, but far from good-looking she sat by his fire, and paid him that trifle he told her. He met pretty Nan when a month had gone by, and he thought like a fool to get round her he'd try, With a smile on her lip and a spark in her eye, she said, "How is the woman that owns ye?" "I'll never be tellin' the life that he's led. Sure many's the night that he'll wish himself dead, for the sake of 2 eyes and a pretty girl's head, and the tongue of the woman that owns him." End of The Grand Match by Moira O'Neill. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Beth Blakely.
Corrymeela by Moira O'Neill, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Over here in England I'm helping with the hay, and I wished I was in Ireland the livelong day. Weary on the English hay, and sorra take the wheat. Och, Corrymeela, and the blue sky over it. There's a deep dumb river flowing by beyond the heavy trees. This living air is moithered with the humming of the bees. I wished I'd hear the Clannaburn go running through the heat, past Corrymeela with the blue sky over it. The people that's in England is richer nor the Jews. There's not the smallest young gossoon but travels in his shoes. I'd give the pipe between my teeth to see a barefoot child. Och, Corrymeela, and the low south wind. Here's hands so full of money and hearts so full of care. By the luck of love, I'd still go light for all I did go bare. God save ye, Colleen da, I said. The girl she thought me wild. Far, Corrymeela, and the low south wind. Do you mind me now, the song at night is mortal hard to raise. The girls are heavy going here, the boys are ill to please. When once I'm out this working hive, 'tis I'll be back again. I, Corrymeela, and the same soft rain. The puff of smoke from one old roof before an English town. For a shawl with Andy Phelan here I'd give a silver crown. For a curl of hair like Molly's he'll ask the like in vain. Sweet Corrymeela, and the same soft rain. End of Corrymeela by Moira O'Neill. This recording is in the public domain.
An Old Woman of the Roads by Padraig Colum, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nima. Oh, to have a little house, to own the hearth and stool and all, the heaped up sods upon the fire, the pile of turf against the wall. To have a clock with weights and chains and pendulums swinging up and down, a dresser filled with shining delf, speckled and white and blue and brown. I could be busy all the day, clearing and sweeping hearth and floor, and fixing on their shelf again my white and blue and speckled store. I could be quiet there at night, beside the fire and by myself, sure of a bed and loath to leave the ticking clock and shining delf. Och, but I'm weary of mist and dark, and roads where there's never a house or bush, and tired I am of bog and road, and the crying wind and the lonesome hush. And I am praying to God on high, and I am praying Him night and day, for a little house, a house of my own, out of the winds and the rain's way. End of An Old Woman of the Roads by Padraig Colum. This recording is in the public domain.
Strings in the Earth and Air by James Joyce, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Sarah Brown, Essex Junction, Vermont. Strings in the earth and air make music sweet. Strings by the river where the willows meet. There's music along the river, for love wanders there. Pale flowers on his mantle, dark leaves on his hair. All softly playing with head to the music bent, and fingers straying upon an instrument. End of Strings in the Air by James Joyce. This recording is in the public domain.
Spiritual and Philosophical Poetry. The Tryst After Death, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Fothad Canan, the leader of the Connaught warrior band, had carried off the wife of Ailill of Munster with her consent. The outraged husband pursued them, and a fierce battle was fought, in which Fothad and Ailill fell by each other's hands. The lovers had engaged to meet on the evening after the battle. Faithful to his word, the spirit of the slain warrior kept his tryst, and thus addressed his paramour. "Hush, woman, do not speak to me. My thoughts are not with thee to-night. They glance again and yet again among the slain at fake fight. Who'd find my bloody corpse must grope upon the slope of Double Brink, my head unwashed in the hands of bands who ne'er from slaughter shrink. Dark folly is the tryster's guide, who death's black tryst aside would set. To keep the tryst at Clara made, the living and the dead are met. Unhappy journey! Evil doom had marked my tomb on fake field, and pledged me to that fateful strife to foreign foes my life to yield. Not I alone from wisdom's way have gone astray by passion led. Yet though for thee to death I came, I put no blame on thy bright head. Full wretched is our meeting here, in grief and fear, O hapless one! Yet had we known it should be thus, not hard for us our sin to shun. The proud-faced, grey-horsed warrior band at my command fought faithful on, till all their wondrous wood of spears beneath death's shears to earth had gone. Had they but lived, their valour bright to-night had well avenged their lord. Had death not all my purpose changed, I had avenged them with my sword. Theirs was the blithe and lithesome force, till man and horse lay in the mould. The great green forest hath received and overleaved the champions bold. The sword of Domnall drank red dew, the loof of hosts accoutred well, before him in the river ford. By death's award slim Comgall fell. The three fierce Flans, the Owens three, from sea to sea 6 outlaws famed. Each with his single hand slew 4, no coward's portion thus they claimed. Swift charged Cudomna, singling out with gleesome shout his namesake dread. Down the hill of conflict rolled lies Flan the little cold and dead. Red Falvey, how your spear strings play amid the fray made manhood melt. For Chorb the Radiant on his foes 7 murderous blows outleaping dealt. 12 warriors in the battle brunt front to front against me stood. Now of all the 12 are left but corses cleft and bathed in blood. Then I and Ailill, Owen's son, to shun each other were loath. With dropping sword and lowered shield, still stood the field to view us both. Oh, then we two exchanged our spears, heroic peers, and such dread art. I pierced him in the very brain, he me again unto the heart. Abide not on the battle plain, among the slain in terror's toils. Shun ghostly converse. Home with speed bear thou my meed of manly spoils. All know that I was never seen, O queen apparelled as a boor, but crimson cloaked, with tunic white, and belt of silver bright and pure. A 5-edged spear, a lance of trust, of many slain thrust I bore. A shield 5-circled, bronze its boss, firm oaths across its midst they swore. My silver cup, a shining gem, its glittering stem will flash to thee. Gold ring and bracelets famed afar, by Nianar brought over sea. Then Celt's brooch, a pin of luck, though small, a buckle of price untold. 2 little silver heads are bound deftly around its head of gold. My draught board, no mere treasure stake, is thine to take without offence. Noble blood its bright rim dyes. Lady, it lies not far from hence. While searching for that treasure prized, be thou advised thy speech to spare. Earth never knew beneath the sun a gift more wonderfully fair. One half its pieces yellow gold, white bronze of mould are all the rest. Its woof of pearls, a peerless frame, by every smith of fame confessed. The peace bag, 'tis a tale of tales, its rim with golden scales enwrought, its maker left a lock on it, whose secret no want-wit hath caught. Small is the casket, and foursquare of coils of rare red gold its face. The 100th ounce of white bronze fine was weighed to line that matchless case. Or see that red gold coil firm wrought, Dinal brought the goldsmith nice. Of its all glittering clasps, one even is fixed at 7 bondwomen's price. Tradition tells the treasure is a masterpiece of Turvey's skill. In the rich reign of Art the Good, his kettle would be cantred fill. No goldsmith at his glittering trade a wonder made of brighter worth. No royal jewel that outdid its glory hath been hid in earth. If thou appraise its price with skill, want shall thy children ne'er attack. If thou keep safe this gem of mine, no heir of thine shall ever lack. There are around us everywhere great spoils to share of famous luck. Yet horribly the entrails grim the Morrigan's dim fingers pluck. Upon a spear edge sharp alit, with savage wit she urged us on. Many the spoil she washes, dread the laughter of red Morrigan. Her horrid mane abroad is flung, that heart well strung that shrinks not back. Yet though to us she is so near, let no weak fear thy heart attack. At dawn I part from all that's human, to join, O woman, the warrior band. Delay not, homeward urge thy flight, the end of night is nigh at hand. Unto all time each ghostly run of fauthed Canaan shall remain. My speech with thee reach every breast, if my bequest I but obtain. Since many to my grave will come, raise thou for me a tomb far seen. Such trouble for thy true love's sake wilt thou not undertake, O Queen. My course from thee must earthward pass, my soul, alas, to torturing fire. Save worship of heaven's Lord of Lords, all earth affords but folly dire. I hear the dusky owl's song, to greet the faithful throng outpour. My voice, my shape, turned spectral weak. Hush, woman, speak to me no more. End of The Tryst After Death. This recording is in the public domain.
Alexander the Great, from the Early Irish, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox. 4 sages stood to chant a stave above the proud earth conqueror's grave, and all their words were words of candor above the urn of Alexander. The first began, "But yesterday, when all in state the great king lay, myriads around him made their moan. Today he lieth all alone." "But yesterday," the second sang, "o'er earth his charger's hoof outrang. Today is outraged soil instead, is riding heavy o'er his head." "But yesterday," the third went on, "all earth was swayed by Philip's son. Today to shroud his calcined bones, 7 feet thereof is all he owns." "But yesterday, so liberal he, silver and gold he scattered free. Today," the last outsited his thought, "his wealth abounds, but he is not." Thus sentence gave these sages 4 above the buried emperor. It was no foolish woman's prate that held them thus in high debate. End of Alexander the Great. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Mariel F.
Early Irish Triads, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. 3 slender ones whereon the whole earth swings, the thin milk stream that in the keeler sings, the thin green blade that from the cornfield springs, the thin grey thread the housewife's shuttle flings. 3 finesses that foulness keeps from sight, fine manners in the most misfeatured wight. Fine shapes of art by servile fingers molded, fine wisdom from a hunchback's brain unfolded. 3 fewnesses that better are than plenty, a fewness of fine words, but 1 in 20. A fewness of milch cows when grass is shrinking, fewness of friends when beer is best for drinking. 3 graceless sisters in the bond of unity are lightness, flightiness, and importunity. 3 clouds the most obscuring wisdom's glance, forgetfulness, half-knowledge, ignorance. 3 signs of ill-bred folk in every nation, a visit lengthened to a visitation, staring and overmuch interrogation. 3 keys that most unlock our secret thinking, our love and trustfulness and over-drinking. 3 the receivers are of stolen goods, a cloak, the cloak of night, the cloak of woods. 3 unions, each of peace, approved miscarriage, confederate feats, joint ploughland, bonds of marriage. 3 excellencies of our dress are these, elegance, durability, and ease. 3 aged sisters, not too hard to guess, are groaning chastity and ugliness. 3 glories of a gathering free from strife, swift hound, proud steed, and beautiful young wife. The world's 3 laughing stocks, be warned and wiser, an angry man, a jealous, and a miser. 3 powers advantaging a chieftain most are peace and justice and an armed host. 3 worst of snares upon a chieftain's way, sloth, treachery, and evil counsel they. 3 ruins of a tribe to west or east, a lying chief, false brehon, lustful priest. The rudest 3 of all the sons of earth, a youngster of an old man making mirth, a strong man at a sick man poking fun, a wise man jibing at a foolish one. 3 signs that show a fop, the comb track in his hair, the track on his nice teeth upon his nibbled fare, his cane track in the dust, oft as he takes the air. 3 sparks that light the fire of love are these, glamour of face, and grace, and speech of ease. 3 steadinesses of wise womanhood, a steady tongue through evil as through good, a steady chastity, whoso else shall stray, steady house service all and every day. 3 signs of increase, kine that low, when milk upon their calves they owe, the hammer on the anvil's brow, the pleasant swishing of the plough. 3 sisters false, I would, I might, I may. 3 timorous brothers, hearken, hush, and stay. 3 coffers of a depth unknown are his who occupies the throne, the church's and the privileged poet's own. End of early Irish triads. This recording is in the public domain.
Through Grief and Through Danger by Thomas Moore, from the Book of Irish Poetry Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Beth Blakely. An Address to the Irish Catholic Church. Through grief and through danger thy smile hath cheered my way, till hope seemed to bud from each thorn that round me lay. The darker our fortune, the brighter our pure love burned, till shame into glory, till fear into zeal was turned. Oh, slave as I was, in thy arms my spirit felt free, and blessed in the sorrows that made me more dear to thee. Thy rival was honored while thou wert wronged and scorned. Thy crown was of briars, while gold her brows adorned. She wooed me to temples, while thou layest hid in caves. Her friends were all masters, while thine, alas, were slaves. Yet cold in the earth at thy feet I would rather be, than wed what I'd love not, or turn one thought from thee. They slander thee sorely, who say thy vows are frail. Hadst thou been a false one, thy cheek had looked less pale. They say, too, so long thou hast worn those lingering chains, that deep in thy heart they have printed their servile stains. Oh, do not believe them, no chain could that soul subdue. Where shineth thy spirit, there liberty shineth too. End of Through Grief and Through Danger by Thomas Moore. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Beth Blakely.
To Time by the Honourable Mrs. Tighe, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nettle. Yes, gentle Time, thy gradual healing hand hath stolen from sorrow's grasp the envenomed dart. Submitting to thy skill, my passive heart feels that no grief can thy soft power withstand. And though my aching breast still heaves the sigh, though oft the tear swells silent in mine eye, yet the keen pang, the agony is gone. Sorrow and I shall part, and these faint throes are but the remnants of severer woes. As when the furious tempest is overblown, and when the sky has wept its violence, the opening heavens will oft let fall a shower. The poor overcharged boughs still drops dispense, and still the loaded streams in torrents pour. End of To Time by the Honourable Mrs. Tighe. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Nettle.
Last Lines by Emily Bronte, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. No coward soul is mine, no trembler in the world's storm-troubled sphere. I see heaven's glory shine, and faith shines equal, arming me from fear. O God, within my breast, almighty, ever-present Deity, life that in me has rest, as I, undying life, have power in thee. Vain are the thousand creeds that move men's hearts unutterably vain, worthless as withered weeds, or idlest froth amid the boundless main. To waken doubt in one, holding so fast to thine infinity, so surely anchored on the steadfast rock of immortality. With wide embracing love thy spirit animates eternal years, pervades and broods above, changes, sustains, dissolves, creates and rears. Though earth and man were gone, and suns and universes ceased to be, and thou were left alone, every existence would exist in thee. There is not room for death, nor atom that his might could render void. Thou art being and breath, and what thou art may never be destroyed. End of Last Lines by Emily Bronte. This recording is in the public domain. Moonlight by J. Callanan, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. 'Tis sweet at hush of night by the calm moon to wander, and view those isles of light that float so far beyonder, and that wide sea whose waters free can find no shore to bound them, on whose calm breast pure spirits rest with all their glory round them. Oh, that my soul, all free from bonds of earth, might sever! Oh, that those isles might be her resting place forever! When all those glorious spheres the watch of heaven are keeping, and dews, like angels' tears, around are gently weeping. Oh, who is he that carelessly on virtue's bounds encroaches, but then will feel upon him steal their silent, sweet reproaches? Oh, that my soul, all free from bonds of earth, might sever! Oh, that those isles might be her resting place forever! End of Moonlight by J. J. Callanan. This recording is in the public domain.
Lines on the Death of Sheridan by Thomas Moore. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Yes, grief will have way, but the fast-falling tear shall be mingled with deep execrations on those who could bask in that spirit's meridian career, and yet leave it thus lonely and dark at its close. Whose vanity flew round him, only while fed by the odour his fame in its summer-time gave, whose vanity now, with quick scent for the dead, like the ghoul of the East, comes to feed at his grave. Oh, it sickens the heart to see bosoms so hollow, and spirits so mean in the great and high-born, to think what a long line of titles may follow, the relics of him who died, friendless and lorn. How proud they can press to the funeral array of one whom they shunned in his sickness and sorrow, how bailiffs may seize his last blanket today, whose pall shall be held up by nobles tomorrow. And thou too, whose life a sick epicure's dream, incoherent and gross, even grosser had passed, were it not for that cordial and soul-giving beam which his friendship and wit o'er thy nothingness cast. No, not for the wealth of the land that supplies thee with millions to heap upon foppery's shrine, no, not for the riches of all who despise thee, though this would make Europe's whole opulence mine. Would I suffer what e'en in the heart that thou hast, all mean as it is, must have consciously burned, when the pittance with shame was wrung from thee last, which found all his wants at an end was returned? Was this then the fate, future ages will say, when some name shall live but in history's curse, when truth will be heard and these lords of a day be forgotten as fools or remembered as worse? Was this then the fate of that high-gifted man, the pride of the palace, the bower and the hall, the orator, dramatist, minstrel, who ran through each mode of the lyre and was master of all? Whose mind was an essence compounded with art, from the finest and best of all other men's powers, who ruled like a wizard the world of the heart, and could call up its sunshine or bring down its showers? Whose humour, as gay as the firefly's light, played round every subject, and shone as it played, whose wit in the combat, as gentle as bright, ne'er carried a heart-stain away on its blade? Whose eloquence, brightening whatever it tried, whether reason or fancy, the gay or the grave, was as rapid, as deep, and as brilliant a tide as ever bore freedom aloft on its wave? Yes, such was the man, and so wretched his fate, and thus sooner or later shall all have to grieve, who waste their morn's dew in the beams of the great, and expect 'twill return to refresh them at eve. In the woods of the north there are insects that prey on the brain of the elk till his very last sigh. O Genius, thy patrons, more cruel than they, feed first on thy brains, and then leave thee to die. End of Lines on the Death of Sheridan by Thomas Moore. This recording is in the public domain.
The Sun God by Aubrey de Vere. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. I saw the Master of the Sun. He stood high in his luminous car, himself more bright, an archer of immeasurable might. On his left shoulder hung his quivered load, spurned by his steeds, the eastern mountain glowed. Forward his eager eye, and brow of light he bent, and while both hands that arch embowed, shaft after shaft pursued the flying knight. No wings profaned that godlike form. Around his neck high held an ever-moving crowd of locks hung glistening, while such perfect sound fell from his bowstring that the ethereal dome thrilled as a dewdrop, and each passing cloud expanded, whitening like the ocean foam. End of The Sun God by Aubrey de Vere. This recording is in the public domain. Sorrow by Aubrey de Vere, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. Count each affliction, whether light or grave, God's messenger sent down to thee. Do thou with courtesy receive him, rise and bow, and, ere his shadow pass thy threshold, crave permission first his heavenly feet to lave, then lay before him all thou hast. Allow no cloud of passion to usurp thy brow, or mar thy hospitality, no wave of mortal tumult to obliterate the soul's marmoreal calmness. Grief should be, like joy, majestic, equable, sedate, confirming, cleansing, raising, making free, strong to consume small troubles, to commend great thoughts, grave thoughts, thoughts lasting to the end. End of Sorrow by Aubrey de Vere. This recording is in the public domain. The Fallen Star by George Darley, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. A star is gone, a star is gone. There is a blank in heaven. One of the cherub choir has done his airy course this even. He sat upon the orb of fire that hung for ages there, and lent his music to the choir that haunts the nightly air. But when his 1,000 years are past, with a cherubic sigh, he vanished with his car at last, for even cherubs die. Hear how his angel brothers mourn, the minstrels of the spheres, each chiming sadly in his turn, and dropping splendid tears. The planetary sisters all join in the fatal song, and weep this hapless brother's fall, who sang with them so long. But deepest of the choral band the lunar spirit sings, and with a bass according hand sweeps all her sullen strings. From the deep chambers of the dome, where sleepless Uriel lies, his rude harmonic thunders come, mingled with mighty sighs. The 1,000 car-borne cherubim, the wandering 11, all joined to chant the dirge of him who fell just now from heaven. End of The Fallen Star by George Darley. This recording is in the public domain. The Sea Ritual by George Darley, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. Prayer unsaid and mass unsung, dead man's dirge must still be rung. Dingle dong, the dead bells sound, mermen chant his dirge around. Wash him bloodless, smooth him fair, stretch his limbs and sleek his hair. Dingle dong the dead bells go, mermen swing them to and fro. In the wormless sand shall he feast, for no foul glutton be. Dingle dong the dead bells chime, mermen keep the tone and time. We must with the tombstone brave shut the shark out from his grave. Dingle dong the dead bells toll, mermen dirgers ring his knoll. Such a slab will we lay o'er him, all the dead shall rise before him. Dingle dong the dead bells boom, mermen lay him in his tomb. End of The Sea Ritual by George Darley. This recording is in the public domain. A Waking Dream by John Francis Waller. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Nemo. Dreaming in the twilight, when the shades creep o'er the hill, watching, when the sun is gone, how the grey cold night comes on, awake, yet dreaming still. Then I dream of dead ones, of my life the joy and light, and I see them round me rise, and I feel their cold, calm eyes gaze on me through the night. Dreaming by the firelight, when the wintry night is chill, watching fire sparks upward fly, while the embers sink and die, awake, yet dreaming still. Then I dream of fair souls from dead ashes issuing bright, and I see my dead arise, soaring heavenward through the skies, in the death dark night. Dreaming in the sunlight, when the summer noon is still, watching in the deep blue sky clouds of white, gold cinctured lie, awake, yet dreaming still. Then I dream of heaven, far beyond those tranquil skies, and I see, mid angels bright, my dead in robes of golden white, alive before my eyes. End of A Waking Dream by John Francis Waller. This recording is in the public domain.
A Lament by Dennis Florence McCarthy. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Youth's bright palace is overthrown, with its diamond sceptre and a golden throne. As a time-worn stone its turrets are humbled, all hath crumbled but grief alone. Whither, oh whither have fled away the dreams and hopes of my early day? Ruined and grey are the towers I builded, and the beams that gilded. Ah, where are they? Once this world was fresh and bright, with its golden noon and its starry night. Glad and light by mountain and river have I blessed the Giver with hushed delight. Youth's illusions, one by one, have passed like clouds that sun looked on. While morning shone, how purple their fringes, how ashy their tinges when that was gone. As fireflies fade when the nights are damp, as meteors are quenched in a stagnant swamp, this Charlemagne's camp where the paladins rally, and the Diamond Valley and the wonderful lamp, and all the wonders of Ganges and Nile, and Haroun's rambles and Crusoe's isle, and princes who smile on the Genii daughters, 'neath the orient waters full many a mile. And all that the pen of fancy can write must vanish in manhood's misty light. Squire and knight and damisel's glances, sunny romances so pure and bright, these have vanished, and what remains? Life's budding garlands have turned to chains, its beams and rains feed but docks and thistles, and sorrow whistles o'er desert plains. End of A Lament by Dennis Florence McCarthy. This recording is in the public domain.
Aeolian Harp by William Allingham. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. O pale green sea, with long pale purple clouds above, what lies in me like weight of love? What dies in me with utter grief, because there comes no sign through the sun-raying west o'er the dim sea line? O salted air, blown round the rocky headland still, what calls me there from cove and hill? What calls me fair from thee, the firstborn of the youthful night, or in the waves is coming through the dusk twilight? O yellow star, quivering upon the rippling tide, sendest so far to one that sighed? Bendest thou, star, above, where the shadows of the dead have rest and constant silence, with a message from the blest? End of Aeolian Harp by William Allingham. This recording is in the public domain.
Oh, Wondrous Death by Archbishop Trench, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Canto 1. Where thou hast touched, O wondrous death, where thou hast come between, lo, there for ever perisheth the common and the mean. No little flaw or trivial speck doth any more appear, and cannot from this time to fleck love's perfect image clear. Clear stands love's perfect image now, and shall do evermore, and we in awe and wonder bow the glorified before. Canto 2. A dewdrop falling on the wild sea wave exclaimed in fear, I perish in this grave. But in a shell received, that drop of dew unto a pearl of marvellous beauty grew, and, happy now, the grace did magnify, which thrust it forth, as first it feared, to die. Until again, I perish quite, it said, torn by rude diver from its ocean bed. Oh, unbelieving, so it came to gleam, chief jewel in a monarch's diadem. Canto 3. The seed must die before the corn appears, out of the ground in blade and fruitful ears. Low must those ears by sickle's edge be lain, ere thou canst treasure up the golden grain. The grain is crushed before the bread is made, and the bread broke ere life to man conveyed. Oh, be content to die, to be laid low, and to be crushed, and to be broken so, if thou upon God's table mayst be bred, life-giving food for souls a-hunger-ed. End of O Wondrous Death by Archbishop Trench. This recording is in the public domain.
Lady Margaret's Song by Edward Dowden, read for LibriVox.org by Rachel Marie. Girls, when I am gone away, on this bosom strew only flowers meek and pale, and the yew. Lay these hands down by my side, let my face be bare, bind a kerchief round the face, smooth my hair. Let my bier be born at dawn, summer grows so sweet, deep into the forest green, where boughs meet. Then pass away and let me lie, one long warm sweet day, there alone, with face upturned, one sweet day. While the morning light grows broad, while noon sleepeth sound, while the evening falls and faints, while the world goes round. End of Lady Margaret's Song by Edward Dowden. This recording is in the public domain.
Epitaph by Aubrey de Vere, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. He roamed half round the world of woe, where toil and labor never cease, then dropped one little span below, in search of peace. And now to him, mid beams and showers, all that he needs to grace his tomb, from loneliest regions, at all hours, unsought for, come. End of Epitaph by Aubrey de Vere. This recording is in the public domain.
An Errand by Jane Barlow, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Beth Blakely. I slept, and where her lonely flower knots gleam, my dear lost love I saw near my side, yet knew our fate, since in my dreamiest dream, how should I once forget that Nora died? But by a blossomed briar methought she stood, whereon the rose's dawn was fair to see, and bend the spray, she said, and this small bud, it lifts so high above us, pluck for me. This is the flower I ever loved of yore, this little rose that, where its petals part, is all aflush within, as if it bore a rosier rose's shadow at its heart. Then, O my love, I said, need must there be, in thy dread world unwist of mortal eyes, full of many a wondrous plume and worthier thee, than aught that drinks the light of these dim skies. Most fair, quoth she, untouched of change that mars, I see them shine, yet this I chide in all, that steadfast bides their beauty as a star's, nor ever a glow will fade, a leaf will fall. For so, beloved, I still have vainly sought, and missed in sheeniest sheen and sweetest sweet, a symbol of the old life's bliss pain fraught, thine yet, where all delight doth fail and fleet. Hence for the old day's sake, from that far land, to clasp these flowers a weary way fare I, because their deathward drooping in my hand breathes memory of our love that shall not die. End of An Errand by Jane Barlow. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Beth Blakely.
The Earth and Man by Stopford A. Brooke. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. A little sun, a little rain, a soft wind blowing from the west, and woods and fields are sweet again, and warmth within the mountain's breast. So simple is the earth we tread, so quick with love and life her frame. 10,000 years have dawned and fled, and still her magic is the same. A little love, a little trust, a soft impulse, a sudden dream, and life as dry as desert dust is fresher than a mountain stream. So simple is the heart of man, so ready for new hope and joy. 10,000 years since it began have left it younger than a boy. End of The Earth and Man by Stopford A. Brooke. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by John Todhunter. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Bring from the craggy haunts of birch and pine, thou wild wind, bring keen forest odors from that realm of thine upon thy wing. O wind, O mighty, melancholy wind, blow through me, blow! Thou blowest forgotten things into my mind from long ago. End of Song by John Todhunter. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Vivian Flake.
The Ballad of Father Gilligan by William Butler Yeats. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. The old priest, Peter Gilligan, was weary night and day, for half his flock were in their beds, or under green sods lay. Once while he nodded on a chair, at the moth hour of eve, another poor man sent for him, and he began to grieve. I have no rest, nor joy, nor peace, for people die and die. And after cried he, God forgive, My body spake, not I. He knelt, and leaning on the chair, he prayed and fell asleep. And the moth hour went from the fields, and stars began to peep. They slowly into millions grew, and leaves shook in the wind, and God covered the world with shade, and whispered to mankind. Upon the time of sparrow chirp, when the moths came once more, the old priest, Peter Gilligan, stood upright on the floor. Mavrone, Mavrone, the man has died. While I slept on the chair, he roused his horse out of its sleep, and rode with little care. He rode now as he never rode, by rocky lane and fen. The sick man's wife opened the door. Father, you come again. And is the poor man dead? He cried. He died an hour ago. The old priest, Peter Gilligan, in grief swayed to and fro. When you were gone, he turned and died, as merry as a bird. The old priest, Peter Gilligan, he knelt him at that word. He who hath made the night of stars for souls who tire and bleed, sent one of his great angels down to help me in my need. He who is wrapped in purple robes, with planets in his care, had pity on the least of things, asleep upon a chair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Irish Mother's Lament by Cecil Frances Alexander. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Aiken. Half the long night, my children, I lay waking, till the dawn rustles in the old thorn tree. Then dream of you while the red morn is breaking beyond that broad salt sea. In this poor room, where many a time the measure of your low, regular breathing in my ear brought to my listening heart a keener pleasure than any music clear. Here, where your soft heads in my bosom laying, ye nestled with your hearts to my heart pressed, and I have felt your little fingers playing all night around my breast. On the brown hillside, where so oft together, roaming forth idly when our work was done, we heard the moorfowl in the purple heather crowing at set of sun. I am alone. Still on my threshold lieth the shadow of the thorn ye played beneath. Still to her mate at eve the brown bird crieth out of the lonely heath. But in my desolate house no sound of laughter, and by my dreary hearth no daughter's face. I watch the black smoke curling round the rafter, I see each empty place. How could you leave me? Did ye think a mother was natured like a bird in summer's prime, who leaves her young brood, hopeful of another in the next glad springtime? They tell me flowers most beautiful are blowing out on your waysides, on your common trees. But will ye find the mother's love there growing ye gave for things like these? And some have told me souls are never parted. Faith leads us all unto the same bright heaven. Nor meet it is that woman, Christian-hearted, to such wild grief be given. Ah, but I know in that bright land is wanting on Sunday morn the sweet church-calling bell, the pastoral word, the gathered voices chanting hymns that ye loved so well. The cares of this great world, its toil, its beauty, will dim your eyes and grow about your heart, and shut out heavenly hope and Christian duty, and every better part. The prayers we prayed together at God's altar, the creed ye lisped into my ear at night, the verses that I taught your lips to falter, will be forgotten quite. Ah me, could I but think those lips were making in some far church the vows they used to pour, I could lie down without this wild heart aching, lest we should meet no more. Sad mother, for the visible presence pining of eyes that smile and lips that fondly move, things that, like dewy nights and bright sun shining, nurse the sweet flowers of love. But sadder far, when the wild waves that sever sing to her ear in one foreboding strain, we part you now, but must ye part for ever, echoing the heart's dull pain. End of the Irish Mother's Lament by Cecil Frances Alexander. This recording is in the public domain.
Sacrifice by A.E. from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Those delicate wanderers, the wind, the star, the cloud, ever before mine eyes, as to an altar bode, light and dew-laden airs, offering sacrifice. The offerings arise, hazes of rainbow light, pure crystal, blue and gold, through dreamland take their flight, and mid the sacrifice, God moveth as of old. In miracles of fire, He symbols forth His days. In gleams of crystal light, reveals what pure pathways lead to the soul's desire, the silence of the height. End of Sacrifice by A.E. This recording is in the public domain.
St. Michan's Churchyard by Rose Kavanagh from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. St. Michan's Churchyard, Robert Emmet's burial place. Inside the city's throbbing heart, one spot I know set well apart from life's hard highway, life's loud mart. Each Dublin lane and street and square around might echo, but in there the sound stole soft as whispered prayer. A little lonely green graveyard, the old church tower its solemn guard, the gate with naught but sunbeams barred. While other sunbeams went and came above the stone which waits the name, his land must write with freedom's flame. The slender elm above that stone its summer wreath of leaves had thrown around the heart so quiet grown. A robin, the bare bough among, let loose his little soul in song, quick liquid gushes, fresh and strong. And quiet heart and bird and tree seemed linked in some strange sympathy, too fine for mortal eye to see, but full of balm and soothing sweet for those who sought that calm retreat, for aching breast and weary feet. Each crowded street and thoroughfare was echoing round it, yet in there the peace of heaven was everywhere. End of St. Michan's Churchyard by Rose Kavanagh. This recording is in the public domain.
Life by Elizabeth Mary Little from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2, read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Chad Horner from Ballyclare in County Antrim, Northern Ireland, situated in the northeast of the island of Ireland. Ah, life, that mystery that no man knows, and all men ask, the Arab from his sands, the Caesar's self, lifting imperial hands, and the lone dweller where the lotus blows, O'er trackless tropics and o'er silent snows. She dumbly broods, that sphinx of all the lands, and if she answers, no man understands, and no cry breaks the blank of her repose. But a new form dawned once upon my pain, with grave, sad lips, yet in the eyes a smile of deepest meaning, dawning, sweet and slow. Lightning to service, and no more in vain, I ask of life, what art thou? As erewhile, for since love holds my hand I seem to know. Elizabeth Mary Little. End of Life by Elizabeth Mary Little. This recording is in the public domain.
Benediction by Alice Milligan from the Book of Irish Poetry Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org. Recording by Beth Blakely. Dear little boy, soft-handed, playing with white daisies now, playing above tree shadows on the grass where sorrowful I pass, a gloom upon the sunlight of your joy seems to fall down whilst I am laying now a kiss upon the brightness of your brow, for with that kiss I did not wish you joy, dear little boy. But this I wish for you, not fortune, not much ease, not blissful days, not overmuch of even well-won praise, not even at end of life your labors due, but that beneath those little faltering feet in sacrifice complete, a hard path may be chosen the upward way on which I pause today, pause helpless, weary, and can walk no more, whose work in life is o'er. And I bequeath, when I must rest my share of earth beneath, my days of toil being done, the hope to this so nearly hopeless heart, to you, weak little one, to be cherished and held apart, perhaps by failure to be tried and shaken, yet not by you forsaken, but kept as I have kept it handed on, till when you too are dust beneath the flowers, triumph at last is ours, when darkness yields to dawn, and may it be our best of heaven to know that God has made it so. Now you may run, white pinafore, into the spreading sun, mid shadows racing as the clouds pass by, go play as thoughtless as the butterfly. The white gay thing that you are chasing after, with ringing childish laughter. And I, whose innocent days of mirth are o'er, seeing you look to me and laugh again, feel hope steal back into my heart once more. Hope with this thought of pain, that oh, you would be frightened if you knew all I have wished for you. End of Benediction by Alice Milligan. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Beth Blakely.
Too Deep for Tears by Edmund G. A. Holmes, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Come once again out of the depths of night, out of the darkness that is all too bright for eyes that need the glare of earthly light. Look once again, oh yes, eyes of purest blue, deep into mine, alas, that never knew in bygone days what beauty shone in you. O calm and silent eyes, yet once again ye look upon me, and I look in vain. That baffling stillness, is it love or pain? Or love reproaching me that mine is cold? Ah, never so, the love that burned of old burns all the more because it burns untold. Nay, doubt me not, 1,000 cares beset, new joys, new sorrows tempt me to forget, but thou, my dearest, art remembered yet. My brother, my lost brother, who can say how far from sight beneath life's surface play live wounds of anguish that no tears betray? Thou knowest at least that only when my woe grew part of me, and sank from sight below into my life, my tears forbore to flow. Thou knowest, O love, how often while I fare through dark and stony paths, in my despair I seek thine arm, and lean on empty air. Ay, even now thy dear imagined eyes speak from the darkness, and thy heart replies to these my passionate and wayward cries. Lean on me still. God gave in taking me His precious gifts of hope and memory. Be strong in these, and I am near to thee. End of Too Deep for Tears by Edmund G. A. Holmes. This recording is in the public domain.